Hi, everybody. I'm author Douglas A. Burton, and tonight we're going to jump into Tron Ares. This is the third film of the franchise, and the franchise which also includes video games and a TV show. And joining us tonight is Hollywood screenwriter Kamran Pasha, who also was involved in the Tron franchise. He was a screenwriter on Tron Uprising, which was a streaming. Or actually, it wasn't streaming. It was a TV show back in 2012, and it was closely knit with Tron Legacy, which came out in 2010. Yeah. And then also joining us is Retro Nerd Girl.
Hello.
So now, Retro. Just to recap, Retro, you have not seen Tron Ares? Is that correct?
I have not seen it, but I know the story. I kind of know the plot, and I've been up on all of the news about this.
Okay, so because we are also we're going to do a review, and I will include spoilers. It's been out for over a weekend, and I feel like if you're watching, if you don't want to know the spoilers, turn it off and watch later. If you do, or just don't mind, then stay tuned in. But we are going to talk about Tron Ares first and foremost, but also the overall health of the franchise. I want to discuss what Tron is. I would like to discuss what the secret sauce of this franchise is all about, why it stuck, what it meant in 1982, you know, the long drought before Tron Legacy came out in 2010, and the plans that seemed to be in place around that time, right before Disney bought Lucasfilm and Marvel, which derailed the Tron Legacy momentum. And then now we have Tron Ares, which is part 3. So, and I do think it's a very different entry into the Tron franchise. I have seen it. And Kamran, I believe you just came out of it.
I just came out of it. Yep.
That's great. So we are going to have some all different perspectives, you know, in terms of what's going to make this show, what's going to make this movie work, or why it's failing, what's wrong with it, what is good about it, and where we think this is going to land the franchise in the aftermath of Tron Ares. So first and foremost, Kamran, Tron Ares, did you like it? Were you meh?
No, I delayed watching it for several days because I'd heard so many negative reactions from friends on YouTube and in the fandom. And this is a very personally significant project for me because I was the head writer of the Tron Uprising animated series, which you can watch on Disney Plus right now, right? And which I wrote back in 2010, so it's about 15 years. And excuse me, a little bit leftover cold here. So yeah, I delayed watching because I thought I was going to be disappointed. And I have to be honest with you, I just posted my review on my Patreon. I really like this movie. And I'm really startled at some of these comments that I've been hearing because I went in with all this negativo stuff. And maybe, Douglas, you have a different perspective on this, but I really like this movie. And I'm part of this world. I mean, I have a legacy within Tron personally, and I'll talk about the reasons why I like this movie, but I thought it was visually stunning. I thought it was really advanced visual work. And I thought it was fun, and that's what Tron should be. It should be fun. And I thought it was fun. And while they did something very different by taking much of the movie out into our world, I appreciated that. Because to me, seeing light cycles racing through the streets of a city and these massive, machines and things from the grid world coming into our world and terrorizing us, I thought was perhaps even the most logical next step based on where we were from Tron Legacy, the second movie, where
I will
came into our world.
So I'll agree with you on that as well. I've heard some negative things. I saw the movie on Friday, so I saw it pretty much right away. Yeah. So I didn't listen to any of the reviews. I listened to most of the reviews and commentary after I saw it. And there is a lot of, it's mostly negative. I'll be honest. It's mostly negative. There are some positive comments out there. I thought it was very mid personally. And I'll explain myself on why. I do not mind the premise. I heard a lot of people complaining about the premise, like you, Kamran. I do not mind the idea that the digital world comes out into the material world. I thought that was very cool. The initial premise of Tron way back in 1982 was that we kind of tumble into the video game world, and we experience what it's like inside the mainframe of the computer, and where there's programs running around and they look like us and they take on the look of the person who wrote the program, and that was all very cool. And then that was also piggybacked into Tron Legacy, which was much more fleshed out of a inner world there. But the idea of the inner world coming out did not bother me. That I do not think was a weak point to Tron Ares. Visually, I thought it was pretty spectacular. The visuals were great. Yeah. So on that level, I agree as well. I thought it was very high level and dynamic. But I had most of my issues come from how this fits into the franchise overall. I think there's some ricketiness there, some wobble. And I also had some issues with the kind of overcrowded cast. And I wasn't too sure, how this went from Legacy to Ares and why we needed some of the changes that occurred. So most of my issues are structural in terms of the overarching franchise. But I will say this, as a standalone film, almost if this was independent of Tron, I think it might have been even better received.
And to be fair, I checked Rotten Tomatoes after I walked out of the theater and said, "Hey man, I like this movie. I don't know why everyone's grumbling to me." 86% audience positive score on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm not alone. And I think many of those are probably younger people who haven't seen any of the franchise and maybe didn't go in expecting certain things, and they just enjoyed it for what it was, and it's enjoyable for what it is, in my opinion.
Right. So there it is. The critics didn't like it. It's weird. These days, critics have very low credibility with me. It's hard. I have almost a neutral reaction now. If critics like it, I'm like, I don't know if that means anything. And if critics hate it, I don't know if that means anything.
That doesn't mean anything. I mean, critics lost all their credibility in the last decade with telling us that great movies were garbage and garbage movies were great. So I didn't even bother. I know it's like a 53% or something. You have to get a positive, not rotten, but a fresh tomato score. I think you have to get to 2/3, like 60 or 67% or whatever, and in the 50%. Again, who cares? I mean, for me, someone said that any movie where the critic score is low and the audience score is high is going to be a banger. It's just going to be great because the audience knows what it wants, and the critics have lost all credibility, at least to me.
That's funny. Even my kids know if the critics hate it, but the fans like it, it's probably good. And if the critics love it and the fans hate it, they know. So I always kind of lean toward the fan scores myself. The critic score is more like a backup metric for me. It's like, okay, the critics are torpedoing it, but the fans kind of like it. I think that this will held its own on the action and on the visuals. And quite honestly, there's been a lot of positive comments about the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack. And I'm going to back that up.
And there's some 80s stuff. There's some great 80s music that's brought in. Depeche Mode. I mean, and again, it's on purpose. Depeche Mode is exactly what you would kind of expect to be in a video game world from the 80s.
And I'll tell you, I should have had this ready. I literally bought the LP to this.
Okay.
Wow.
So I've been listening to Tron Ares music by Nine Inch Nails for about a week and a half before the movie came out, and there's some great tracks on that soundtrack. So it's not just Nine Inch Nails. Listen to the soundtrack. There are individual tracks that you'll end up loving throughout this. So, but I think in terms of story, in terms of character, I think this film needs some work, and I think that's largely going to undermine the long-term success for Tron Ares. And I do think that it's got an uphill battle at the box office is what it's looking like. So Retro, now you haven't seen it, but
not yet.
Speak for the rest of us who haven't seen it, who are going based off the impression they got from the fans. And then I want to mention something that Kamran, I want to get into your rule on Patreon after that too, because I think that's interesting. But just as a representative of someone who hasn't seen it but has heard, what's the grapevine? What are they saying?
Okay, so the grapevine of a lot of people who haven't seen it is still curiosity. So I, like myself, I haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it as soon as I can. I just can't get to a theater right now. As you can see, I'm in space. but but as soon as I'm able to see it, I would like to see it because of the legacy, of course, of Tron. Seeing the first one, the second one, myself very leery to even see the second one. I really had to. I mean, it was like plucking eyelids to get to see the second one, and when I saw it, I was very pleased. So I think I'm gonna probably. I mean, already I can see there's a lot of things I'm gonna like about this movie, and I know quite a bit of the plot, which is very unique to me because I do look at all of the reviews, even spoilers, to get a sense of like what people are really having a problem with. For those people who really love visuals, who really love cinematic and incredible music, this movie will probably be one of their favorite movies, period, point blank. Okay. And there's already people who have been responding on X saying, this movie's incredible. I love it. This is one of my favorite, my favorite movies. There are just going to be some people who hate this all of it. They're just not going to like it. And there's several factors involved, including Jared Leto's reputation.
See, I noted that in my review. I personally think because whenever I've talked about this, people are going to go, "Oh, Jared Leto is this and that." I'm like, okay, so that's coloring at least some people's perspectives.
Well, Jared Leto was not the problem in this movie. I actually thought he was very serviceable in the role, and I'm not a Jared Leto fan. I actually am one of the guys that when I knew he was in it, it turned me off a little bit. It was a little off-putting, but having watched it, I didn't really have a problem with him.
He's fine in the role. And let me just say this because, and I'm sorry, I interrupted your flow, Retro Nerd, but I want to add to it. Then hopefully we can get back to your flow of your discussion. But Jared Leto, I've met him once. I've actually said this on a couple other broadcasts, but I've met him once. Several years ago, I got a random email from my manager saying, "Hey, you've been invited to Jared Leto's house." I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go. And it was a fundraiser for some cause that I guess maybe his people thought certain specific people in Hollywood would support the cause, and they reached out to me, I guess, on their list. And I went there, and he's got a home up in the Hollywood Hills, which is I think a former army base of some kind, or some kind of army building, right? That he's completely redesigned as his personal home. It was like a barracks, and it was cool. And I went there, and it was celebrities everywhere. It was like they're everywhere I looked, there were like famous people, and I was kind of like, what the hell am I doing here? Right? You had like Katy Perry was hanging out. She was sitting right behind me, Katy Perry, and Jessica Alba was there, and all these like relatively well-known popular people were there. And I will just say this. So I'm there and I'm like surrounded by all these celebrities, and everyone's chatting and schmoozing, and I'm just like a guy, right? But I'm schmoozing and trying my best to schmooze. And let's just say a very famous actress, I will spare revealing her name, a very famous actress, I was just found myself in a group of people chatting, and a very famous actress was there, and I was just chatting with her politely, and she was looking at me very dismissively, like, who the hell are you? Like, how dare you even talk to me? Like that vibe, like I can tell that guy's a celebrity. I don't know who you are, right? She had that like vibe where she would turn her body away from me and just look at the famous people in the group, right? And it was really rude, and it was off-putting, right? But I was like, yeah, whatever, okay, I got it. I'm not famous, okay? You don't want to deal with me, okay? I stopped. You're not. You get the body language. Even guys eventually figure out body language. Women figure out instantly. Eventually, women make it so clear. You get the body. Okay, I got the body language. You don't want to talk to me. I'll leave you alone, right? Jared Leto, this is his house. He's the host. He saw that. He saw how she was talking to me and being rude. He walked from across the room to come in, and he entered into our circle and immediately started talking to me and sort of really saying, I guess he'd done his research on who the people were that were coming, and saying nice things about me and the stuff that I had done, right? And he was like lifting me up in front of these celebs, saying,
wow, that's pretty huge.
Don't be rude to this person who I've invited into my home. Like he had done his research on who the people were. Right. I'm sure that's something he had given a file or whatever. These are people being let into his home. So I'm sure security people had to process who was being allowed, especially if they weren't celebrities. Right. And so he knew who I was. And he went out of his way to make me feel welcome, at home, and respected, while a celebrity was disrespecting me in the crowd. And I never forgot that. I've heard all this reputational stuff. I can't speak
Wow.
anything else about him. All I know is how he behaved in his home with a guest, and that says something about his character. Maybe that's a good thing about his character. I don't know, but that's what I experienced, so I have to share it.
Hey, that's an honest story, and that counts. You know, so that's awesome. I to be honest, when you hear people talk and who don't know him, by the way, you get a different impression of him, and you know, you get a sense of him as an actor. He tends to be in these movies that just don't seem to make it. It's so bizarre, some of the film choices. But and I'll just say this, and then let's go back to retro. But again, Jared Leto was not the problem in Tron Ares. Where there was a problem, it wasn't because he was in it. It wasn't because he did such a bad job acting. I don't think he did much to lift it. But it's hard for me to pinpoint him and say
he didn't pull it down in any way.
Right. I think I was very neutral with Jared Leto in this, and I'm predisposed as a fan, as someone who's never met him. You know what I'm saying? I am more predisposed to not like the fact that he was in the film. That wasn't a big selling point for me, but I didn't have a problem with him in this film. I thought he was very serviceable. So, Retro, go ahead and continue what you were saying.
Okay, yes. So I was saying that there may be a few people, because his name has been circling in the news of late. Whether the news is true or not, I don't know. But some things have come out about him, and also there are a few people who just don't like him. Just don't, and so they've voiced their opinion about the film and how they couldn't, go with did not enjoy him in the film. And then there have been people, of course, to say, like what you two have said, that he's really, pretty decent in the film, and the issue really is the plot of the film, and which I think is very interesting about the plot, as far as what I've heard so far, and how it veers away from legacy, where we were really looking for the completion of that story. We wanted to know more about the ISOs, and we wanted to know more about Sam, and I forgot the name of the young lady. Cora, yes, Cora, and why, how they were going to change the world. And maybe they did not find a way to figure out how to make that happen, or how to write that story.
All right, so mini spoiler, Retro. At the very final scene of the movie, there is a suggestion that Cora and possibly Sam will return.
Yes.
Yeah, there is
it's clearly a suggestion that there's more of a story with them, and that they're gonna, assuming there's another movie, which I don't know if the numbers don't get up, but
the
numbers are pretty low.
The numbers have never really been that great for this franchise.
And again, the critique, I guess people they felt the story didn't develop from 3. The opening sequence is a bit of a voiceover that explains what happened in those years, right? To the company.
I thought they were very scant with that.
But they gave us some indication, and that there's some mystery around. There is some mystery as to what happened to Sam and Cora. And then the end of the movie suggests that we might find out later, right? So they are aware. They are aware of these, and they didn't leave these loose ends unacknowledged.
Right. Well, and and we'll get into that in a second, because I think that's a fair point. The handoff between Legacy and Ares. I do think that Ares is a very different vision from where Legacy was trending. Now, one of the positives I want to mention is, this is a big deal as a dad, and sometimes I get a little flack for this, but sometimes my opinions are tempered to some extent, and I'm open about this. How my kids react. Did my kids like it? Now, just because my kids like it doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Just to be a very clear caveat. This is one of them where I was much more mid, and my kids were a little bit more positive. But my main point was, my kids both mostly liked it. And my youngest son, Lucas, who is very into movies, and someone who I really love talking about movies with, he liked it. And I'm going to give him the floor for about 60 seconds. Here's Generation Alpha, a young guy. What did you think about the movie?
Okay, so what I thought about the movie, out of 10 stars, I would probably rate it an 8.
Same here.
Yes.
Wow.
Why I liked it was I really liked their new light cycles, the new color scheme. I don't really think we've seen red throughout the
No.
Tron trilogy, so I really liked how they brought red, and also their discs are really cool. I like that triangle shape with the blades that extend. The action was really good, and then some of the negatives were that they just brought new characters like Eve. She's new, and they didn't really explain her character. And my brother actually said he said that Tron wasn't in it, so they should just call it Ares.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Well,
Tron has come to represent the bigger universe, but yes, the character Tron is not in the film.
Yeah, and what I was getting was that that Ares was the new Tron. That Tron was the program, and it was modified to be Ares. That's what I was picking up, and maybe I have it wrong.
I mean, the movie. I think he's certainly the center of this movie. But remember, Tron wasn't the center of the second movie either.
That's right. I wanted to have a discussion of exactly what Tron
Well,
is.
first, let's thank your son, because are there any other thoughts? I interrupted you. Are there
Any other thoughts? What did you
Because
think
I
about
love
the
the
soundtrack?
You're very
Oh, I
sophisticated.
loved the soundtrack. When the first song came out, I literally was playing it so much.
It's
as a-
cool, man. The music, Tron is all about music, man.
Yes. So I would say that Tron Ares, one of the definite, and we have to give it credit, it carried on that tradition of a dynamite soundtrack from a Daft Punk is now merged with Tron Legacy so strong. And I think Nine Inch Nails definitely added something to that part of the
Since
the
I was
Tron
a
lore.
since I was a new generation, I liked the Daft Punk soundtrack. And since I figured out that they were doing it, I was like, oh, this is a pretty good soundtrack. But I didn't know. I was disappointed that they weren't doing it because I had no clue who Nine Inch Nails was. But when their music came out, we rolled the dice and got the soundtrack like a month early.
Yeah, I actually got him his own.
The great band of Nine Inch Nails, wonderful.
It is, yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Really wonderful.
So Gen Alpha, here we go. Young guy watching it in the theaters.
Thank you so
And by the
much.
way,
See, the future's in good hands. He
So
liked
I
the
will
movie.
just
He's on the
add-
right track. The old farts didn't get it.
well, I will add, he's not an isolated. We watched Tron, and then a week later we watched Tron Legacy, and then a week later we went and saw Tron Ares. So he has seen
Excellent.
all of them. So he is
Nice.
speaking from some context of the overarching.
So he gets how they evolved. One of the nice visual things, and this is a bit of a spoiler because it was a surprise for me in the movie. One of the nice visual things is that they actually they go back to some of the visual graphics from the original movie in 1980s. Cool.
Oh, I love that. Was my favorite
And
part.
that actually touched my heart because it's intentionally done. Like we're in a part of the grid that is from that time period. And
Right.
you go back to the visuals of the original movie, and they don't hold up visually. They look like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, but that's their
Right.
charm. That's their charm. And that movie went back to it.
That's
Yeah, they
actually
did.
some of Jared Leto's influence on that, because he said he really loved the Tron 1982 and really pushed for that to be part of the movie.
Well, I mean, look, I can tell that whoever was, there's moments like this. There's moments like the original light cycles and the original grid.
So cool.
And it's just cool. Because remember, when the original Tron came out, it was 10 years ahead of its time.
Yes.
Right? It was visually stunning. We might think they look cheesy. At the time, people were blown away. They had never seen a movie that was inside of the world of video games with the up-to-date video graphics of the time. And
That's
so,
right.
yeah. And so this is,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is, the Tron Legacy movie had great graphics, and I think the graphics here are just another step up. That's the one thing. The visuals are absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, I actually thought once I saw them kind of return to the 1982 grid, I really thought that was underutilized. I was like, with all the stupid multiverse plot lines and all this other stuff that the other films are franchised, you could go right into that 1982 grid and make a total case that it's there and have a little bit of more interplay. Regardless, the few seconds or maybe the minute it was on there, I did love it. It was instant pleasure. Maybe it was fan service, but it worked. It worked for me. I loved it.
Well, it was fan service. Again, I just don't get why some people are complaining, because
Well,
the second movie didn't do this kind of fan service. And you can fairly critique that they had Bruce Boxleitner for the movie. So why isn't he there as Tron? You see Tron, but you never see Tron. Like Boxleitner was one of the actors in my animated show. He did the voiceover of Tron in my anime. It was Boxleitner who did it, right? And so and I've been a fan of him since I was a kid on Scarecrow, Mrs. Crow, right? I mean, this is part of my childhood, right? And so you can critique the second movie that it shafted him. So what are people complaining about Tron not being in this movie? I mean, you actually go back to the actual grid of Tron.
Well, I think the complaint is that he wasn't in it at all. At least the other shows at least attempted to include him. I think one of the big criticisms of Legacy is that he was underutilized, and the plot line. And after having rewatched it, I do think that the plot line of him being repurposed and all that, it's okay. It wasn't a great plot line, and he was kind of background in it, but it did recenter on the I fight for the users. Tron had to remember that about his identity, and I thought that worked. In Tron Legacy. One thing I will say in the positive comment, or I'll just say this: Tron Legacy was not well received by the fans in 2010. It was.
No.
Yeah, they grumbled then too. I was there at Disney when it came out.
Yes.
I do think it. Now I'll say this: I don't believe personally that Ares will have the same legs as Tron Legacy ended up having. However, it's possible that it has some legs. And I'll say why. I do think there's some stylization that's so unique to Tron that I could see people just popping this movie on in the background and just having it running. Whereas, like The Last Jedi, nobody would do that. If you either like that movie or you don't, and if you don't like it, that's it. It's never coming back on. Ares, maybe you put it on because you dig the visuals and the soundtrack and stuff, and you have it running in the background. So there might be a case that Ares has a little bit of life on the streaming services after it gets out, but I don't think it's going to have the kind of legs that Legacy had. Legacy, I think, was torpedoed by the bad CGI of Kevin Flynn that people were so turned off by, myself included. I actually did not like Legacy.
But remember, that was the first major use of the modern de-aging technology.
Yes, it was a great effort.
It was a breakthrough. It was an experiment. Just like the original Tron was an experiment. And that's what I mean, I gave it more legacy because I knew they were going to improve this technology better, but no one had ever tried it before. It was stunning to see the original Flynn character as Clue, but with his face.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about Tron Ares here in terms of plot, just briefly, enough to discuss it. One of the plot lines is, okay, we all saw in Tron in 1982, Kevin Flynn's typing on the computer and Master Command has given him his final warning, and then he zaps them and brings them into the computer mainframe, right? In this one, it's the opposite. You have lasers bringing digital code into the material world, and it's like alive. And I thought, it's real that, they were talking about it from a military standpoint and all this. Let me see. Do I have here's a screenshot. So, and you probably saw some of this from the trailer, so this is no shock, but you're in NCOM and these lasers come down and they all kind of sculpt this tank. They call it the Dart, which I don't know if they even mentioned that again, but we do see it. I mean, there's a lot of, for anyone criticizing the script, there's a lot of good setup and payoff. There's a lot of stuff that's set up in like the first act that's paid off in the third. I mean, so they do that. Well, and setup and payoff is key. You have to have that. But I did think that the plot was a little convoluted. And one of my biggest problems was they never really gave me enough to understand how this process worked. Now, I was much more forgiving in 1982 when they zapped them into the computer. Computers were new back then. And it was the idea that there's a digital version of yourself in that computer. And, it was more of a PG level thing. For this, when they're going to present this, not in a computerized reality, but in the real world, where you have 4K visuals, I feel like they needed to address a little bit better how this worked and what that stuff was. I couldn't tell. It seemed like they were saying that this was a biological reality, that it was coming out.
They create some kind of physical manifestation. It's not like the holodeck, right? There's it's physically real. Maybe it's some kind of holographic technology that feels real from force fields. I don't know, but they don't go into it. In the same way in the first movie, you don't know how a laser beam gets his guy into a computer. I mean, you don't know. Right. It's gonna go with it, right?
Right, and I admit that. I'm saying that Tron, the original, was sparing of it, but I think it was appropriate in 1982 to be sparing about it. I feel like in this world where you're going to say the digital world's coming in, not into a 8-bit reality inside on the computer screen or on the movie screen, but in the real world, and we're going to be physically interacting. I just felt that there needed to be a little bit more of an explanation on that. So you would have a physical being, and then at 29 minutes later, they were de-resed and they would turn into these pixels again. And I was like, oh, are they flesh and blood or are they just pixels? And if they're just pixels, what is the physical part of those pixels? So
yeah, but again, at the end of the second movie, Quora comes into our world. There's no explanation. I know this. I know that because I was at Disney when I heard it, that there were conversations of the third because, you know, my bosses were the guys who wrote the second movie, Kitsis and Horowitz, whose names were credited as co-producer on this film, right? That was probably just a contractual thing. Right? I don't think they have anything to do with it. But I heard some of their conversations, some versions of stories for the third movie in which they were thinking, well, part that the plot would be about Quora not being able to physically survive in our world, which is an element of this movie, right? And that Flynn's son, right, has to maybe figure, maybe he has to, do I have to bring her back into the grid? How can I save her? So they played with that as an idea, and maybe that evolved into the central idea of this, of not being able to last in our world for long.
And again, I don't think that was a necessarily a flaw or a bad direction for the franchise to go. But with Quora coming into the real world, it was really like the end shot. So it wasn't meant to be explained. It was meant to be revealed. And then in this, where this is the premise that's going to sustain the film, I just wanted something to grab a hold of so that I felt like I understood how this digital coding turned into a material, physical, substantive thing that could interact with the world. I never really understood if he was flesh and blood. They hinted at it, but then he would pixelate if they killed him. So I just had a tough time buying into it. And the other problem I had was it really would only work in nighttime scenes. They didn't have any daytime because I think the neon and the if it was like 8 a.m. and you have one of these things riding around, like, would it not look cool? Would it ruin the whole look of Tron? And maybe they wisely stayed away from it.
No, they should have set it in dark. It's cooler with the lights, man. It's cooler. And, you know, we do, I mean, much of the daytime stuff is, you even do see Jared Leto at the end in daytime, right? You know, but that's when, again, when other cool stuff is happening, when it's just the human stuff.
Right. Well, my main complaint with this premise was that the premise I'm fine with. I don't have a problem with the idea of the digital world coming into our real world. I just needed something.
I can imagine the Disney exec sitting there. The person who said what you just said is going to get fired because the Disney exec, the Disney executives will be like, no one wants to hear the blah blah blah, you know, equals MC squared crap. They're going to watch a cool laser create a physical form, and they're not going to ask any questions. And I would suggest 95% of the audience they're right about. Right. I think 95% of the guys get his ass fired. Like I got my ass fired.
Yeah. Well, you might be. You're probably right. You would know. I mean, you've been at those writers' tables in those circumstances. But the box office also suggests that whoever's hiring and firing over there is maybe hiring and firing the wrong people because it's not pulling its weight at the box office. Now, it might have legs. It might have legs.
You know, this is what I think is going to happen. Can I? And so, you know, I think because like I was distressed to hear such negative reviews because this franchise is close to me personally, right? I'm part of its myth. I created part of its myth, right? And that kept me from going to see this movie. And I wasn't going to go see this movie based on these other people's opinions until, out of commitment to you, I said, all right, fine, I'm committed to come and talk about it. Let me go see it, right? And then I was like, what the hell was I listening to all these people for? And I think a lot of other people are going to get more of it. I think this is a movie that got an initial pull down from people who didn't like it, telling everybody, don't go see this movie. And I don't know why.
Yes.
I don't know why, because I don't think it's fair.
I'm going to chime in here because there are videos upon videos upon videos saying, franchise over, Tron's end of game over. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm sorry, even if this is the worst movie ever, there's still a lot more about Tron, unless they had killed off all the characters that you could actually like use for your Tron, you know, your official Tron 3 or your next Tron movie. It's still possible. Just don't wait 9 years or up 10 years to do it. Do it soon. Well, is all I'm saying. But and don't spend $180 million.
Well, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, the reason I don't think that the movie itself, just by itself, is a franchise killer, despite its underperformance, despite the fact that it is underperforming. But I do think that the economics of this are very dangerous for this franchise's future, because they spent, what was it, Cameron, 180 million?
180,
I mean,
180.
I mean, which is too high for this. It's too
Yeah.
high.
Yeah, it's too high. And, it's too high. It's going to have to make almost $500 million in order to almost break even, or let's say make even a few bucks. It does not look anywhere near that. It looks super low. In fact, I did pull the numbers, and even I was shocked. I thought this was, let me say this. There was a little bit of a buzz about Tron about a month ago. I heard people talking about it all over YouTube, and I was like, Tron has some buzz to it. So here we go. Here's the numbers real quick, just so you could see. This is after the first weekend. This doesn't include Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
33 million at the domestic box office. That's really bad. Those are super low numbers. So the franchise killing element is financial, not necessarily storytelling. And I will, and you know me, Cameron, I'm very sensitive to bad stories. I don't think this was a great story by any stretch, but I don't think it was a franchise killing story a la The Last Jedi. This is something you could work with.
Especially when people actually bother to see it and say, hey, this is perfectly good.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good movie. Most people are going to walk into it and say, this was a pretty good movie. I wasn't this garbage movie that I was told. And I think that's going to actually affect a lot of the reactions, a lot of, again, some of my good friends, who are in the chat, like Latino Slime didn't like the movie. I honestly believe he didn't like the movie. I don't agree with him, but but there are others who I think were already in this on an anti-Disney agenda, on an anti-Jared Leto agenda, and they came in, and I think they're going to lose credibility. Anybody goes to watch movies goes, this was fun. What are you talking about?
Well, I think it's going to remain a mixed bag. I think you're going to have some people like you and like my son who are going to like, hey, what's all the hubbub? I had no problem with it. I sat down, I watched 2 hours, and I enjoyed myself. And I'm fine with that. I'm not mad at those people for enjoying it. I'm not mad at anyone for liking a movie. Trust me, I have some guilty pleasure movies that I'm very embarrassed to admit that people would jump all over me. But who knows why?
Admit it. Wild Things is one of your favorite movies. Wild Things. Wild Things.
No, but there's things about that movie that are great. Like Jupiter Ascending. I actually like Jupiter Ascending. Everyone hated that movie. And for good reason. There's problems with it, but for whatever reason, I didn't mind it. So sometimes a movie like this that's highly stylized will have people who like it and do like that aesthetic. Tron does have an aesthetic, and Tron Ares has its own variation of that aesthetic, which I think is very powerful, actually. But I don't think this was a great film. I think at best it was a mid film, and I think it's going to be a mixed bag. People are going to watch it. If you have any expectations from a franchise perspective, I think this is mostly a letdown. I think if you are looking for entertainment, there is something here for you. I do think that.
And I feel like this movie is going the way of the legacy of Tron anyway, because this has always been what Tron movies do. I mean, there've always been people who extremely like it. Some people never got it. They were like, what is this? This is all hokey since the beginning. So I think it falls under the kind of cult classic kind of thing where you'll have people who will always be like, oh, Tron Ares is my jam. And you'll kind of like, okay, but that's the way of these movies. I mean, Tron has never been a movie that the entire mass of public have, gone crazy about. It's always had mixed reviews since the beginning. It
has. And Tron's one of those funky franchises. It's one that everyone knows. Everyone knows Tron.
Yes.
But there's parts of Tron that people have a problem with. Like when I watched Tron 1982, it does not age as well as some films, even from the 70s. Like it looks, but the aesthetic is so good that it kind of carries over. And there's certain things. You know what I thought? I was asking myself, I was like, why does Tron 1982 work? Like, why is this still holding my attention? I think because it goes into a video game world, which in 1982, the world of video games, you expect to be kind of this cool upper. But Tron is it's a dark, oppressive, tyrannical world inside the mainframe. And so it's got a dark side to it. Even in that, like remember the black hole around the same time Disney made, there's like these dark side of these, what should be fun, optimistic films. There's this dark side to it. And I think that actually works for Tron. And it looks cool. I love the light up suits. I'll never get over that. I love those suits. So, and I will say aesthetically, these suits are pretty cool. The light cycles are a hit. I almost wish they didn't show us too much in the trailer, but them riding on the real highway, turning on those, the light walls, that was cool. There was another shot, little bit mini spoiler, where there's these flying ones and they have the light trails and they spiral around like an F-15 jet and they take it out. And I thought that was visually really cool. So there was some really cool stuff. I do, as a writer, want something to grab up to say, I believe this is possible, because I feel like visually they're selling it to me.
You are in the 5% minority, brother. No, nobody, you can't. How do they go in time? How do you use a laser beam in 1982 to become a digitized character inside of a video game? Come on, man.
But in 1982, I think you had some leeway, because in 1982, it's like 8-bit graphics and it was very experimental back then. And I think people didn't need to know, but we are living now in a computer. People were still using
but now we have these machines where you have, what are those things called? Those 3D printers?
3D printing.
Yeah. I mean, this is essentially a next dimensional version of 3D printing. 3D
That's where
printing is
thought
incomprehensible in the 82. It was Star Trek stuff.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that it's a weakness of the film that we don't really, I don't know if we believed it the same way that we believed it.
I'm not hiring you when I do the next Tron series.
What
You're gonna be the jerk in the room that tries to make it real.
No, I want it to be believable. If I don't believe that these pixelated creatures are actually there, I mean, this isn't the movie Pixels where no one cares. This is Tron, and they're trying to sell it to us visually and through action and through interaction. I think you need something. I think you need a little bit there to sell it. But
the science is a little off, but I think if you believe some of the other aspects, maybe you would have been okay with this. So maybe that's
you definitely have to suspend it. But you do start at when they're constantly interacting like this, and you're not in a conceptual computer space. You're in the real world. There's a part of you that's asking, is this possible? Is this happening? Can they really destroy those? How'd that happen? Is he going to bleed if he gets cut open? Like why is he pixels now? So I do think that it was a problem, at least in undergirding the overall action and interaction between the real world. I think it just left a question mark to some viewers, and I'm one of those that question mark persisted.
I'm just gonna dismiss this as 1980s undiagnosed autism. I'm gonna leave it. That's what I think.
Well, the box office says otherwise.
No, I don't think anybody's walking out of there going, man, don't watch this movie because they don't explain how these lasers create this thing. Come on, man.
Oh, I am. I'm a sample of the audience. I walked out of there saying, man, I just don't know if I bought all that. I don't think they explained it. I didn't understand some of the interaction there. So anyway, that's fine. We could agree to disagree on that, but I do think that they didn't quite undergird it with the level of believability we needed. If you just want a popcorn action film, then that's Tron Ares. You can get that out of Tron Ares.
That's all I said. That's what I said in my review. This is just a popcorn movie. It's there to have fun. Like I saw some of the reviews on like the audience reviews of Rotten Tomatoes. They're like, dude, this isn't an Oscar-winning script. It's just there to have fun. Like in my review, I noted there, I could tell the moments in the script where the Disney executives that I worked for, some of them were still there probably, right? We're giving the notes. There's like a couple of moments where like there's a moment where one of the characters falls to their apparent death, right? And then you look down and she's not there because she's not, she's a program. She doesn't die that way, right? And of course, we know what's happened because we know she's a program and she's not going to get killed if she falls off something. But that executive said, make sure she says, where did she go? In case someone doesn't understand what they just saw. And I noted those moments in the scripts and I laughed because I could tell the writer's like, fine, I'll write.
Well, yeah, there is a lot of that too. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot overly literal in the dialogue to the point where the dialogue is explaining the film as you go in a way that's actually impairing the
I
drama
heard that.
and slowing it down. But again, well, I've said it. I mean, I thought this should have been underpinned a little bit better with something, just one thing to grab a hold of there. As far as the characters go, we have quite a cast, and I think this is probably one of my biggest complaints about the film. It is loaded with a bunch of new characters that were never really mentioned before in Tron, that kind of came out of nowhere from Tron, and they're everywhere. I mean, they literally are populating the entire film. Now, some of them are likable more than others. Some of them are okay. Some are, I don't think any of them were fantastic. I think
no, these are, again, this is we're not talking about Oscar level character development in this movie here. Okay, I mean that's not what it's there for.
Yeah, well, I mean, we we don't want just cardboard cutouts either, just filling
Brother,
space.
if you could just get out of, I've worked at Disney. If you can just get out without making pure garbage there, you've made a miracle. I've worked there. I've taken notes from these people.
Yeah.
You know, if you can get out of pure garbage and make something that's not pure garbage at Disney, it really is remarkable.
And what is that from? Is it just too much interference from too many different cooks in the kitchen, or what is it?
All studios have that with Disney, but Disney is, of all the studios, Disney is the most Machiavellian. And I was warned that when I got the job on Tron, my lawyer called me and said, "Hey, be careful when you go there. I mean, it's not a safe place." I'm like, what are you talking about? I've worked at Warner Brothers, I've worked at Paramount, I've worked at Universal. He's like, yeah, those are normal studios. Right. And so this is Disney's a whole other level. These are not good people. This is my lawyer who's used to dealing with, let's say, not good people in the world, right? And he's like, these aren't good people. And of course, you know, I got fired after 6 months because I was me. I mean, let me give you the story of how crazy that place is. So the first day that I arrive, and I'm the head writer, I put together my writing room and I meet all the executives and, go and learn the schedule and create a calendar for how we're going to do everything. I'm really excited. It's my first time really running a show, running a writer's room, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then at the end of the day, when I was like really soaring high, I was like, I know how to do this, man. I'm handling this really well. One of the female executives said, hey, come into my office. Let's have a sort of end of first day, discussion, right? So I go in and she says, close the door. And this is what she says to me. She says, so you come across as a very honest, honorable, straightforward person with no agenda. That's not going to help you here. She says that to me as the first thing she said. She said, that's not going to help you here. She said, you've already created enemies. Day one. I was like, what are you talking about? She said, because I actually believe you are an honest, straightforward person who's just trying to make a TV show. I believe that. But everyone else thinks, oh, he's playing the nice guy game. He's playing the friendly guy game. So those people said the people that play the friendly, accessible, nice guy, I'm here for you. I want to make a show. Those people are always, in Disney culture, the most dangerous Machiavellian backstabbers. So you've already been assumed to be one.
Yeah.
It's the first thing she told me. Everyone here has a double face, and you have now painted yourself as being dangerously Machiavellian by just being honest.
Wow.
I was like, what? That's the first day. So yes, anything good. I mean, you're talking to literally, I just felt like I came out of the Vietnam War. And you're like, oh, I think they should have taken that hill differently. I was like, dude, I'm being shot at. I was like, BC guys were coming up from underground, just bordering me. All my friends were blown to pieces. Maybe they should have tried going around the hill this way. I was like, you have no idea what I just survived. I have no idea what these writers survived, but I know it wasn't good from my own experience.
Wow, you were traumatized. The Disney wars of the early 2000s.
I'm traumatized, man. For my lawyer to say, be careful there.
Well, I will so I always appreciate having someone who, with actual professional experience, chipping in with some more of an opinion besides just a fan in the stands, right? I'm a fan of now I'm a writer, but I'm not a writer professional like Kamran is in Hollywood. So I appreciate that extra layer that we can get. It doesn't necessarily nullify the fan reaction, but we also get another layer of context. What's that?
You can grumble as much as you want. I witnessed brilliant creative people just be broken. I witnessed them be broken by the system.
I don't doubt a word you're saying. I don't doubt that the nice guy gets crushed at the writer's room, that you have to have the social fighting skills to survive these pit fights. In the corporate, I've worked in corporate America. Now that's not saying I worked at Disney, but I've dealt with corporate America, and I've seen the strange Machiavellian designs that play out.
Disney is a whole other thing, man. It's a whole other.
No,
thing.
I believe
but
you.
It's like a magnification of every.
It sounds like you're talking about mom.
Yeah,
well, but I have to say that being the case doesn't exonerate a film from saying, well, just because Disney turned out something that was decent means that equates to a good film. I don't think that's true
that's
either.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. You can critique it. Like I said, there's things you can critique in the movie. I mean, it's characters aren't that well developed, but I didn't go in with that expectation. And I went in with very low expectations based on what I heard. Then I was
Me too.
I was pleasantly surprised because my expectations, I think the film had been misrepresented to me by many people because the critiques I got were not what I saw in the film. They weren't critiquing the characters weren't that deep. They were critiquing stuff that was like, this is killing Tron. I was like, what are you talking about, man? This is perfectly in line with the universe.
I think plenty of it was in line with the universe. Like I said, I'm definitely more in the camp of this was a mixed bag. Yeah, there are certain things I think definitely drag this down, and I think there were things that helped prop it up. So I think it's a mixed bag, and I think that the mixed bag isn't helping it. I think it would have helped the franchise more if this was more of a direct hit instead of on the blue ring of the bullseye.
Yeah.
Instead,
I think it's very hard. Has Disney made anything that's superb in the last decade?
No, they are hampered. Disney has been hampered. This used to be a company that was, with a reputation for turning out some of the most magical stories, the most enduring and long-lasting, time-tested stories, whether it was animated or real. Even their clunky efforts, like we were talking about, Tron, 1982, The Black Hole, 1979. Those are flawed films, but they have endured. There's something there still that has sustained those. I think this lacks, ultimately, some level of magic. I think it works as an action film. I think it works as a popcorn film. I think it does sustain some of the Tron world carrying over. I don't think this is a franchise killer because I think the Tron aesthetic, you could always build something off of that. You could always work with that. But my main criticism does come from the cast of characters. This is what took me. Now, I'll say this as a caveat. I didn't hate any of the characters. None of them.
You didn't get to know most of them, so you can't hate them.
But none of them seem to do much of anything. Yeah. The lead character, by the way, is Eve, the woman off to the side, Greta Lee's character. She's the main character. She's the CEO of Encom. So when I left off, Sam Flynn was taking over. There was the whole wrestling with the board, with the CEO of Encom, and that. There was a Dillinger still in the folds there, played by Cillian Murphy. Yes. And all of that's just replaced during exposition in the opening credits. And she's the head. And she was very underwhelming in this film. There's no way around it. She wasn't great. She wasn't terrible. She was just very underwhelming. I doubt she's not going to bring anyone to this franchise. There's not going to be a bunch of Eve fans clamoring for more.
That's absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair. But again, I didn't dislike Jared Leto in this movie. I think if the franchise is able to keep going, I wouldn't mind a second movie with him in the where the story ends with him. And especially, I really do think now that if they do this, then they need to make it about what it's implied to be, which is it's going to be the search for Sam and Cora, right? Which is what the implication is, right? So I think they can't go off that now. Now they've dangled Cora twice. They can't do it.
Well, I think it's whereas Disney, like we talked about, the sequel trilogy in Disney and how that is almost unrescuable. You can't use good writing to save that. I do think, and I don't know if they'll do it because of the economics, but I do think if they could do a follow-up with this and bring back the sequel with Sam and Cora and somehow integrate all of this, could actually get re-elevated. Similar to how the prequels were revived by the Clone Wars, the good writing in the Clone Wars animated show. So, it's possible because
there's a lot of potential. There's still a lot of potential right there. A lot of meat on those bones.
Well, Tron Uprising was a prequel to the second movie, which is what I wrote, right? So Strangely, I don't expect to get a call to write the prequel to Tron Ares, which well, maybe they'll realize, maybe they'll eventually get enough of the feedback from people like watching Tron Uprising, going, "Hey man, how did that show go from being really good to really bad in the course of 6 episodes? Like, what happened in episode 6 where the show went great the previous episode, and then it's terrible for the rest of the season? Well, a certain person was not there anymore."
Hey, I will say now, so I want to go over this because I would like the audience, the people listening, to know that Kamran was a screenwriter for Tron Uprising. I think this is a big deal. Now, I'll say this, Kamran, what's weird is I had started following you on YouTube years ago, and I did not know you wrote Tron Uprising, and I was watching it randomly, and your name popped. I was like, Kamran, I know him. I know Kamran Pasha. So I did not watch it because I heard you were attached. I watched it and then realized that, oh my God, the guy from YouTube wrote this show. So on IMDb, Kamran wrote one of the episodes that's flagged by an AI to say this is one of the highest rated episodes in the show. So real quick, and I want to tie Kamran into this because I think it's worth
that. I sadly I need to go in about a minute, so I need to wind down. I got to take care of some stuff. So yes.
Okay. So real quick, this is in a nutshell the Tron franchise. 1982, you have Tron, and then Retro. You and I can kind of get into the franchise and the inner workings and what the secret sauce of Tron is, and whether or not some of it carried over into Tron Ares, what did, what didn't. And then there's a huge desert of time until we get to Tron Legacy, which had mixed reviews, but became kind of a cult classic and has really endured to become a beloved part of the franchise. Well, and then after that was Tron Uprising. This was a TV show. This is where Kamran was involved. And I even have the receipts to prove it here. Here is a screenshot. By the way, some people didn't like the animation style. I did. But yeah, there you go. Written by Kamran Pasha.
By the way, I wrote that whole episode, but after I was fired, they went back in, took my name off the other episodes, and made sure other writers were credited to decredit.
I was going to ask you about that. I don't remember there being.
All the other episodes were written under my supervision. I rewrote while I was there for the first 5 or 6 episodes before they fired me. I rewrote everything.
Really?
And so they kind of ungraciously took my name off of everything to erase.
Well, that sucks. Because this was well written.
The scripts were written by these guys, and I rewrote everything. So
yeah, I'll be honest. I liked Uprising. Some people said they didn't like the animation. I liked the animation. I thought it was super cool. It was, it was its own style and aesthetic that was in the vein of Tron, the Tron franchise. So Kamran is a direct contributor to the franchise, and I will say.
And I helped develop the mythos, the Renegade, all that, all that stuff, whatever.
Renegade Part 1 and 2. And by the way, if you want to watch the 2 definitive Kamran episodes, turn on Tron Ares. It's on Disney Plus if you have it.
Tron Uprising, yeah.
Tron Uprising. It's episodes 2 and 3, which is Renegade Part 1 and Part 2. And it's awesome. And by the way, just to bring this up, this is not just some side project. I want to show you the cast of Tron Uprising.
We had a great cast.
This was star-studded. Elijah Wood plays the main character. Yep. Bruce Boxleitner reprises his role as Tron. You've got Lance Henriksen, who's Bishop. Paul Rubens, who's Pee Wee Herman. This is a pretty impressive cast.
We've got Emmanuel Shrieky and Mandy Moore. We had a superb voice cast, right?
Yeah.
I met most of them. I met Elijah. I met Emmanuel. I met Mandy. I met Nate. I didn't meet Bruce, unfortunately. I would have loved to because he just wasn't. I wasn't there when his voice was scheduled. So
he fights for the screenwriters.
All right, guys, I need to wind down. But just to answer the thing you had raised, it's I think I'm actually going to quote Kev, who's in the his name is I think where's Kev Oyston, who I agree with. I think the secret sauce is this. The secret sauce is that Tron is always underappreciated when it comes out and always becomes a cult classic. Happened in the first movie.
Yes.
Happened in the second movie. Happened to my animated show. Nobody watched it. That's why it was canceled. And then now it's like on Disney Plus where it's well regarded, right? And I believe it happened to Tron Ares. I think with time it's going to be another.
Yes.
I think this Tron is just cursed to be ahead of its time by its nature, and Tron is making a movie or show always for the next generation. I believe that. I think it's so it's okay that people don't get it now because none of the Tron versions have ever been appreciated.
Exactly.
Ever on the first round, ever. And there's no fault to people who didn't like it. It's just that this is being written for somebody else who hasn't come yet.
Yes.
So on that note, my friends, God bless. You're still going to talk about this, right?
Yes,
so
we're going to go over it.
So Retro Nerd Girl, is always wonderful seeing you.
A pleasure. I'm here too.
Go check it out, Retro Nerd Girl. I want to see your review of it, because you will always give it a fair review. It won't be coming from an agenda.
Okay.
Right. And I that's true of everyone on this panel. Cameron, thank you so much for coming on to the show to talk about Tron Ares, sir.
And everyone, throw a link to my Patreon. Everyone, come join me on Patreon. That's where you get some of this stuff live, all right?
Yeah, if you want to follow Cameron on his Patreon, I will post a link immediately. Here, I think I could do it right now. Cameron's great, and he will give writing advice, and he will help you with your projects if you are a writer.
Absolutely. All right, God bless everyone. I got to go. Bye-bye. Peace. Take care.
All right, take care.
See you, Cameron.
Good to see you.
Let me see if I can post that here real quick. Give me 1 second. Copy. And then here, I'm going to put this in the comments for everybody if you're interested, if you want to follow Cameron on Patreon. So getting back to Tron. So Cameron, he might not be wrong that this will pick up a cult following.
He's right. I agree. That's one thing I have like a sixth sense for. I can tell as soon as I saw the trailer, I knew that this would be a cult classic.
Really?
Because I've seen this happen over and over and over again to a lot of these like sci-fi niche type stories. There's always going to be somebody who's interested in it. And there's also a group of people who love movies that are both combined with cinematics and score. They don't care about, and they don't really care about story plot, and they'll get the story plot later. As they watch the movie more and more, they'll start to, fill in the blanks. Oh, what happened? Where did Doug go? Well, I'm not sure where Doug went, but I did do a. Oh, there he is. He's coming back.
My hand literally bumped the mouse and it turned me off of. It got me out of everything.
Yeah, I did a complete breakdown of the trailer, and in the trailer I was like, oh, there is a lot of potential here, a lot of, as I said before, meat on those bones. And even if the story is probably not gonna hit with everybody, definitely there's going to be a core audience for this just by the look alone. And we get this.
I'll just say this. It's totally possible. And based on all the reasons you just said, the aesthetics, there is the soundtrack, there is something about the Tron world that is special and has its own kind of minutia to it. And it tends to, even if it's not, like you said, not accepted right away, it tends to kind of work over time. There are aspects of this that might help, that will serve those legs that we're talking about. However, there are some things about this that I think are working against it as well. So I don't know if it's going to have the same success. I want to see if people are drawn to this. At the end of the day, people cared about Tron. So when Legacy came out, it did good at the box office. Here, I'll pull up the numbers here. I've got them. Tron Legacy, for all the criticism that it garnered, here, Tron Legacy. So here, first off, here's the where it stands on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Not great, but this is still considered a cult classic. The critics didn't like it. The fans mostly did, right?
Yeah.
But box office wise, let me point this out. I think this is it here. Tron Legacy did pretty good at the box office. It made 172 million. This is back in 2010. These numbers are not adjusted for inflation. So it made $172 million domestically, and it made $228 million internationally for $400 million. Okay. Now, if you know the calculus for how a movie makes money, you see that the budget was 170.
Yeah, it's on par with the movie that's out now.
Right. So you have to double that to set the baseline. So because when a lot of people see that the movie's made 170 million, like, oh, it made 170 million.
Yes.
Nope. The theaters keep roughly half of that box office. The
Yes.
theaters keep it. So the studios are only getting the other half. So you immediately have to double that 170, which is 340 million as a baseline. And then you have to add the marketing budget on top of it, which let's just say it's 50 million, and that's low, but let's just say it is. You're looking at around $390 million. This at 400 million looks like it broke even, at least, and made some money. So people came out to see Tron Legacy. They were mad about it, but they all saw it and they remembered it. And then years later, as they continued to watch it, as they continued to listen to the Daft Punk soundtrack, like, maybe I was too tough on that movie. And I think that's what Cameron and that's what you are saying will happen or might happen to Tron Ares. However, what I'm going to point out is that, and also Tron, the first Tron, let's see how it did at the box office. Same kind of thing. So 33 million. So the budget was 17. It made about 33. Roughly, it broke even. Maybe made a few bucks. And you can also say that these movies both sold some merchandise.
Yeah,
they sold merchandise. I remember there was a Tron line in the 80s. So these did move some merchandise. And then you think about the soundtrack sales of both Tron and definitely Tron Legacy. Adding on to that. So now the soundtrack will definitely help Tron Ares. But if we look to see where Tron Ares is right now, here's where it is right now. So now this costs 180 million, right?
Yeah,
180 million. So
they've got a way to go to catch up.
Just to break even, it has to make 360 million, and then to cover all the marketing costs and all that, you're gonna have to add on to that. So it's gonna have to make that 44 million. And these movies make a big chunk of their till in that opening weekend.
Yes.
So worldwide, we're at 66, and this is as of today. So this is the opening weekend plus 2 days. It's not going to make it. This movie, it was not beloved the way Tron Legacy was. Does that mean that you're wrong that it won't have legs? No. I think you made a compelling and legitimate case for it, but I'm saying there is evidence that this is not. People are less interested in this.
Well, here's another thing, though. Tron is number one at the box office. So no movies are doing better than this right now.
Well, so you would hope that a franchise film would break out of that malaise.
You would hope. And I'm not defending the low sales right now. I'm just saying.
Here's what we got.
It's number one, and maybe they released it at the wrong time of year. I mean, this is a movie for me. I feel like if I was going to release a movie like this, it would be in the summer, one of the summer months, or sometime before September, before Labor Day. This just seems like it's in the wrong time slot.
Well, I think that's true. I think this would have been good counter programming in the early summer when Superman and Fantastic Four was coming out, because people were like, I don't know if I'm into the superheroes. I don't know.
Exactly.
Way, both of those films are okay. I actually in fact, I thought Fantastic Four was actually really good. And I liked Superman, but it would have been nice to have some counter programming. Tron Ares might have been that perfect one for the audience to go after.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And so I think their timing is a little off. I think this is a bad week. We can wait a few more weeks to see how much it catches up, but it doesn't look good. I don't think it's going to catch up in the box office. I think we'll do more is streaming. I think it'll do better with actual physical media. I think it'll do better with merchandise, all that stuff. Over the years, people will say, "Oh yeah, we really like the Tron Ares. Which one is your favorite movie?" There might be, probably not as much as the other two, but there'll be some people who say that this is their favorite Tron movie. That's where I'm coming from as far as the legs go, as far as long-term fandom. And so this is where I'm sort of shocked with, and a little bit disappointed in all the news where people are like, yeah, the franchise is over. It's done. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
There's
I don't believe that
still
either.
more. And if Disney can figure out how to make their budgets just a little smaller for this type of thing, and figure out how to actually write something that the fans want, because this movie, even though they spent 9 years to make it, wasn't what the fans were expecting or wanted. And
I do
so,
think a follow-up film that integrates legacy can save it. I do believe
yes,
that.
I believe it too. Incorporating the two movies, Aries and Legacy, together, because I think that is the only way to go. You need Jared Leto in there. You need Cora. You need Sam. It would be great to have Bruce back in the story, and I just feel like that's where that's sort of where we're going. Box office though, I don't think it can catch up. So I'm not saying that it'll catch up at the box office. No way.
Well, the film does have an issue with it, and you know me, I am a big proponent of heroine-centric films. I am not someone who trashes a movie because it has a female lead or any of that stuff. However, I do think that this film suffered a little bit from the recasting of the. Let me get an image of her up while we're talking about her. I do think that it
Okay.
suffered.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yes, Greta is the main character of the film. How come
Mhm.
this isn't going on to the? Give me 1 second.
Oh, sure.
That is really unusual. It's not putting it up there. Let me try a different image here. Eve was not a compelling character, and it's really hard to make a case that she was. There we go.
Yeah.
She's the main character of this film. She's small. She almost fits to some extent the girl boss issue that a lot of fans are not liking, where you are replacing a male character who is in the franchise and just replacing them with a new female version of them. People have an aversion to this strategy for films, and they do that in this. Now, I am very sympathetic. I try to be as much as I can, but I also have to call it out when they're doing it, because to not notice that, I think, would be a complete inauthentic position to take. She takes over this, and she's very, very, very underwhelming. Very limited range in her acting. They give her a very brief backstory. There's almost nothing to it. She suffers a little bit from the Ray problem, which is she comes from nothing in the franchise to become the lead, and then they don't really do much with her. Now, can she be saved? Maybe with a follow-up film, but I don't think fans are going to come out in droves to see her, to see someone named Eve carry the Tron franchise. Secondly, they kind of added a female sidekick, or I shouldn't even say sidekick, almost like a minder to every male character in the film. You had Athena going with Ares. You had the mother, who's Gillian Anderson from X-Files. She was there to kind of put a check on Dillinger, the Dillinger character.
Yeah.
So you do have kind of a crowded cast, and it does not seem necessary or essential for the film or the story.
That's why that's why it costs so much too. You're paying for all of these actors who don't go cheap, to show up in the film. No, they must have, backed up a huge, truck full of money to get Jeff Bridges to come back,
Yeah.
So and from what I heard, he's only in there for a small period of time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So they do put him in there. So this is a sequel that jettisons Tron.
Yes.
And it jettisons Sam Flynn, who was the lead character of the last film. It jettisons Cora, who is the how come it's there we go. Why is it giving me all these versions of this? There, boy, so I have to remove each of these individually. It jettisons Cora, who was a very likable character in Tron Legacy.
Had a
So
great background story, her being an ISO and what did that mean? And what is this utopia world that she could possibly create? And
yeah, so
I think maybe that's where I think the writing might have been like, okay, well, we can't really represent our utopia. Maybe they thought that maybe they couldn't really represent all the things that she could do.
but
And
then
so
that's the task of the writer.
mm,
Here's the leave, right?
yeah,
Here's the leave. To use a pool term, here's your leave. What's your shot? An expert pool player will find a shot no matter what the leave is.
yeah.
That's what a professional writer should be able to do. Here's your leave at the end of Tron Legacy. What can we do with it? That's why I was telling Cameron, I actually don't mind the premise of them coming into the real world because, like he pointed out, and it's true, the part of the leave of Tron Legacy is that these ISOs, that part of the digital world is coming out. So
Yes.
the premise is not a problem. And people have a problem with that, or I think are being a little too tough on it, or they just didn't like the way it was executed in this particular film. But they jettisoned all the characters, which disrupts continuity pretty
That's the
significantly.
problem. That's
Imagine
the
if
biggest
Empire Strikes Back got rid of Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and just brought back a Force Ghost of Ben Kenobi, and then brought in all these new characters. Star Wars would probably suffer as a franchise if you attempted that by Return of the Jedi. So
Yes.
don't do it. Is my thinking. Try to work with the characters you've got, and then add other characters like they did with Korra, like they expanded Clue in
Yes.
between Tron and Tron Legacy. Now they did bring back Jeff Bridges as Kevin Flynn, and I don't think anyone from our generation can watch this and not think that he looks like Jor-El.
Well, number one, yes. And also we saw him die in the
Yes.
last movie. So who this?
Right. So the one character that they've said, okay, he's kicked off this mortal coil, the digital coil of the Tron universe. That's the character they brought back, the one that requires the most explanation. And the characters that naturally should flow into the sequel have all been removed. Not just like they're not like background characters.
Yeah.
Like they're out. They are out. And I do still think it matters to remove Tron from the show. Now, Cameron was right. Tron was a side character in Tron Legacy, and Tron is
also
technically a side character in Tron 1982.
Yes, he's always been a side character, but I think what a lot of people and what I'm hearing is that it could have, if they were going to over explain something, it would have been to explain that Tron is now redesigned to be Ares, and at least show you the process of that as sort of show not tell kind of thing. That's something from what I can hear of the story, that's something I would have put in the story as a storyteller, is that
Right.
explanation, like we have the basic knowledge and idea of what Tron is and who Tron is. And what we're going to do is we're going to redesign him. Oh, I want him to have all of these really cool aspects. And boom, we've got the redesigned Ares. And his name is, and now he's Jared Leto.
Well, so right. I can sort of appreciate that, or I can deal with that, but I think you're just stacking the deck against you by saying, if you draw the Tron card, to be like, nope, let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of Tron. So
yeah.
To tie in what you're talking about, how Ares fits into the Tron character as a replacement, I think it's important to understand what Tron is,
Yes.
who Tron is. So I've recently rewatched the entire trilogy, and what's fascinating, and it's part of the cool thing about Tron, is originally the idea for Tron was that he's the character you play in the video game, right?
Yes. Yes.
He's the character you can control. That's why he fights for the users.
The users, yeah.
That's the original premise, but they never really show him doing that. Like in what's the movie Wreck-It Ralph? There's a scene where they show the character being controlled by the video game girl. They don't ever really show that with Tron. But that's the original premise, that he's the character you control in the video game. But what Tron did that was so much better, the film, is they gave us a very dark world inside this. It's a dystopia.
Yes.
There's a master control that's like a dictator, that's a tyrant, and it's oppressing all of the programs inside there. And so Tron is expanded to be a program that was written by a character in the show named Alan.
Yes.
Now, Alan he's a programmer. He stays up late.
He's the developer. Yeah.
And this is Bruce Boxleitner.
Yeah.
So what he does, becoming aware that the master control program is becoming a little too controlling of the programs, he writes a program called the Tron program. And the Tron program is specifically designed to fight the master control. And what's so cool is that and this is part of the secret sauce of Tron, is that when you write a program inside the world, the program looks like you.
Yes.
There's something cool about that. I think that captured all of our imaginations in 1982, that you write this line of code and your fingerprints are on that line of code inside the computer world. He looks like you. He's got your personality. And so Alan is now Tron. Yes. And Tron fights for the user still, in the sense that he's fighting the master control program as a security program. Right?
Yes.
Is that your understanding of Tron? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Absolutely. No. That is exactly what Tron is, and that's the reason why we see everything in 1982 from Flynn's point of view. We do see the interaction between Flynn and Alan, but we don't get and we see the interaction of Flynn and Tron. But you never see Tron and Alan at the same time, because he is there. He is the user.
Right.
So it's really a cool concept, and it kind of messed with it a little bit in Legacy. And Legacy was kind of a little bit more murkier, because yes, Alan was there, but he wasn't necessarily sort of the key element or anchor in the game anymore. And so there was a Tron in the game, but they seem to be separately devised.
Right. So what happens in Tron Legacy is this program of Tron is repurposed by Clue, who kind of takes over the role of Master Command. He takes over the mainframe of the computer. He takes over Clue and takes over Tron, the Tron program, and repurposes him. And he's one of the tough guys that Sam Flynn has to fight in Tron Legacy. And then at the end of the movie, that character realized, and what's his name? Rinsler?
I thought it was Rinsler.
Right. That character, that program remembers his original identity as he remembers that he's Tron.
Yes.
And at the end, he's like, that's right. He's like, I fight for the users. And he remembers that great line. So that's what Tron is. He's a security program, and he's on our side. And that's why he's a hero. And what's cool is, as Kevin Flynn, the designer of the video games, gets sucked in, he gets to team up with the security program, Tron, to fight back against Master Control. And that's awesome. That's classic storytelling stuff inside the old Tron program there. So in this, they don't really explain much of anything. Tron's just gone, and it's replaced by Ares. But Ares is no longer a security program so much as he's a program specifically designed for soldiery to be projected into the real world and made into a material soldier who could fight actual wars in the world.
Now, I actually thought that was cool when I heard it. But, I was like, oh, there's so much potential here. But it doesn't look like they actually did anything, with that idea. Because I was thinking it could be, of course, with him being redesigned, the last movie where he sort of comes to and he realizes, hey, I'm really supposed to be this person, the hero, and then in this movie, from what I'm hearing, he just becomes more aware. There's no acknowledgement that he's Tron anymore.
Right. And I think that's a departure from one of the through lines. You want content. So when you're dealing
and his purpose, that was a big deal, because the purpose is to be to be a hero, or to protect. And from here,
Right.
it seems like now he doesn't have a purpose.
Right. In fact, it's almost like he's looking for Ares is looking for a purpose by the end of Tron Ares, and as a third entry into the franchise, it's not necessarily a good place for your character to be suddenly searching for identity.
That's the problem.
Good storytelling starts with that search and
Yes.
ends with your identity cemented.
Found, yes.
Return of the Jedi. Luke
Yes.
was searching. I want to be a Jedi like my father before me. And by the end, he stands up to the Emperor Palpatine at the cost of his life. And the act is so courageous, act of self-sacrifice, that it inspires the greatest Sith Lord in the galaxy to turn back to the good side and destroy the Emperor.
Yeah.
So,
well, this makes it very easy for the fourth movie to really be like, hey, I found out I'm actually Tron and I'm supposed to be a hero. That could be like the main, pulse for that character going forward.
Yes. And now, as a writer myself, I asked myself, if the premise, which I said I don't mind the premise of the digital world coming into the material world. I kind of liked it. If I was going to deal with this, I was like, what are the opportunities here from a sequel standpoint? Because remember, unlike Rian Johnson, you are not starting fresh in the middle of a sequel. You are carrying story with you, and you have to respect that story. And then you have to add something to the story that was not there before in order to elevate it. And if you could do both, continue the storyline and add something greater to it, then you have done your job, I think, as a writer, specifically with sequels.
Yes.
How awesome would it have been if you did have Bruce Boxleitner and here comes Tron into the real world and he meets Alan, his programmer? They look the same. It would have been really freaking cool to have that moment where the program meets the creator. That's an existential thread that you could have.
That would have been so much fun.
Totally. I mean, that would have been great.
Yeah, it's still an opportunity. I mean, still an opportunity to do that, and it would have been really great. I mean, we already had that happen with Flynn, sort of seeing his doppelganger in there, even though it was Clue. But still, like, you can still do that. That would be it. And the thing is that the actor Bruce Boxleitner is still alive.
Yes, he's right there.
Come on, yeah. I mean, come on, he's still here, and it's possible to do it if you haven't pissed him off, too badly enough. That and also write a good script so that way it will bring him on board.
Well, and here's some other opportunities if you want to have some fun with it. They flirted with it, and Cameron mentioned it, and I loved it. They did go into a 1980s mainframe, and you got to see the light cycles and the level of animation that came out in 1982. For such a big budget, one way you could save a ton of money is go back to 1982 mainframe for the easiest animation possible. And guess what?
It's already done for you.
We would have loved it. We would have said, oh, it's low res, and that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah.
Another thing one thing that was cool about Tron and Tron Legacy is, so this is Clue. This is the Clue program. He looks just like Jeff Bridges.
Yes.
And it's one of the introductions to the interplay where you have Kevin Flynn hacking into the main master control, and you jump into the computer and you see that his program that he's hacking with looks just like him, and he's in this tank, and there's this little, yes, this little like bit, that's following him.
Yes.
Yeah. And then he gets destroyed, but that's Clue.
Yes.
And what happens in Tron Legacy, this guy right here on screen becomes, he takes over the entire inner world of the Tron world, inside the computer mainframe. So this is Clue. He becomes the most dangerous tyrant in that world. And I thought that was cool. I thought it might have been kind of fun. And Jared Leto, I think, missed an opportunity. When you go back into the 1980s mainframe, you should look like these guys. Let's see those funky 1982 uniforms again, just like they were. Because remember, it wasn't just that they lit up. It's like they had a sheen to them they would kind of be lit up and then they would turn and it would get dark again and then they would light up again. And it was kind of cool because it made them look very three-dimensional. It would have been cool to see these guys again when you're inside the 80s mainframe, that this is what programs still look like, you know?
Yeah.
So it just seemed like if you wanted to mess with that, if you wanted to find opportunities to deliver on something that the audience might really get a thrill out of, that it was all just sitting there. If Jared Leto was wearing one of these, at least it connects him to the franchise origins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that there was some missed opportunities with this one. I don't think the surrounding cast did enough to carry enough water. Because like I said, they replaced the old cast. And so now you're asking a lot. You're asking me to buy into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new characters, while asking me also to forget about all the old ones that didn't show up again.
Yeah.
So
that was something when I saw the trailer. I was kind of like, this doesn't look like Legacy at all. And I didn't watch Legacy initially because it didn't look like, it looked like there was a lot of new people. So I think they did the same mistake twice, which was
but Legacy, I will say upon rewatch, Legacy, Clue comes back. Kevin Flynn comes back, and Kevin Flynn has a role in Tron Legacy. He is still active. He found the ISOs. He gets excited about that. He has a purpose to bring these. ISOs are like the first real proof of like sentient life inside the computer. Cora's living proof of that. So she has a role that's tied into Kevin Flynn.
I loved all that.
Yes, he's a direct descendant, and honestly, I really do like Sam Flynn. I thought he was a good character. And Tron was still there. Alan,
he grew on me. Sam Flynn grew on me because I was like, first of all, I was like, well, who's this new kid? And then I watched, I watched him and I saw how they were building his character in the beginning. He was highly athletic. And I was like, okay, where's this leading to? Well,
he's a daredevil.
When he gets into the into the grid, he actually can use all those physical skills he's been using all this time in this adventure. And I was like, wow. And then he's like, I loved his excitement when he found out that the grid was real. He's like, I'm inside the grid. He was so excited, and I was right there with him.
Yeah, and I actually think he had that leading role vibe to him, which for some reason I didn't see it the first time. This is kind of what you and Cameron are saying, that maybe there's things here in Aries that I'm missing the first time. And maybe I do think that this is a little different, a little weaker. That's not to say that it won't have any legs, that it won't capture any audience down the road as it hits streaming. I think it might, but I don't know if it's going to rise to the same level as Legacy did. Because I think it's too much of a refresh all at once. Now,
a lot of new stuff.
Again, now if you can write a fourth film, which good luck with the kind of loss they're about to take from putting Tron Ares out. Looks like they're going to take a massive multi-million, perhaps who knows how many hundreds of millions they might lose. It looks like it's going to be a big loss. So to sell a fourth film is going to be a big ask of the studio, and the studios are becoming much more risk adverse on these legacy type of franchises with built-in fan bases. It's almost becoming a liability to try to entertain built-in fan bases, whereas before it was an asset. But if you could tie these guys back in and give Eve a better role, make her do something, make us care about her, then if we can do that, if the writers can do that, then perhaps Tron Ares can elevate, because now all that cool stylized action and like the fun aspect and the cool music and all the aesthetics that I think will sustain Tron Ares, now we can appreciate the characters more that are in it because another film fleshed it out. But technically, you can't rely on a sequel to flesh out your characters from the first film. I mean, or from the third film here. I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of a.
I mean,
violation.
I mean, I think they're based on what I've been known, and I will refresh. I did not see the movie, but I have heard the entire plot and all the all the main spots of it. I mean, that's just what I do, and so I really think that there is a high bit of potential here, but they really can't wait another 15 years to do it. But that might be the amount of time to raise the money for the movie. Do you know what
I mean, it might have to be crowdfunded. We might have to start hitting up the chat. Hey, we're gonna crowdfund Tron 4. We're gonna try to save it. Yeah,
But
I
there
think
is a way. I mean, I think with the addition of Dillinger, I hope I'm not spoiling it. Are we in spoilers?
yeah, we could spoil it. It's been out.
Okay, so with Dillinger now becoming sort of, resurrected as sort of the bad guy, going forward, and so if there is sort of a threat on Earth, in the real world, it could really, really play into Ares and Sam and Cora connecting and sort of forming like a trio team to go get these guys, go after these guys or save the world and become heroes. I'm really having a hard time with Sam and Cora and what they did. What they did after all these years. What were they doing? And,
Yeah,
and so that's sort of a question that will have to be answered, and I hope the answer isn't, "Oh, they made a love child that became, that is gonna be sort of the Neo, the one." And
yeah,
from what I was seeing from Tron, Ares, was that or Ares was sort of playing the one based on
kind of.
his
Yeah,
acting, especially based on his acting, it was very, Neo-ish from The Matrix, and there could be some interesting things that they could do if they play this as sort of a reverse Matrix, and really think about some, existential questions that are more than just like, oh, there's an AI that has become self-aware, but more like, what does it mean to be human? You know,
Oh, I think if you use an
like,
AI, you can really expand the Tron franchise to include that. And
yeah,
I just don't know if they took advantage of that because AI is on everyone's mind, and the idea of sentient, almost evil ISOs, so to say, might be really really cool to play with as a concept. Um,
oof.
Bonzo says that my grandkids would be lucky to get a Tron movie, and then and then
That's
Joseph AK actually says if Tron Ares becomes a cult classic, like if it does catch momentum on streaming, if it does start to trend there, if it does capture an audience, then perhaps someone can make the case that another Tron movie may be warranted. But
It's gonna be tough, you can't just make another movie right after this failure. Very few studios are gonna be okay with that, because
well, and it's
they
hard
gotta
to
put up real money.
well, and it took what 15 years for us to finally get invested completely in the Tron Legacy characters, and then they're like, now they're gone, and
Yeah.
now they're gone. So it undermines my motivation to get invested in these new characters
Hmm.
because they're not likely to make it, and the franchise is not likely to follow this storyline.
Yes.
At least that's what I think. It's not likely that the
If they could
storyline is going to go anywhere.
if they could find a way to make this cheaper, maybe, but at the pricing that they're working with now, I don't think so. I definitely feel like it's gonna be a while before they do that, and then it's who's going to be left to be in the movie? Who's
Well,
still around? Who's gonna be? And you can't. And I think the thing about what they did was that they signed, Jared Leto, uh, on 9 years ago with this project. Please don't do this again because it not I'm not saying Jared Leto, but don't get a celebrity to be signed on to a movie without having your script done and be ready to make the movie, because this is where it gets really murky, because they spent 9 years working on this, and
Yeah, they
it's
backed into it, it seems.
and it still has trouble with the story, to the point where people aren't really sure, or there's still a discourse about the actual storyline.
Right.
But everything else is great, but the story itself. So even though I'm saying that there may be a lot of people who really are going to love it, and I might watch it and I might love it. It isn't, when you have people who see two different movies so abruptly, it makes you wonder, like, what is going on with, like, having a movie in production for 9 years.
Well,
It's
I'm sure
probably
if
a bit
Cameron was
too
here, he'd
long.
tell you that that's pretty normal, that these things tend to, that
Oh,
they're
go on.
always in some stage of something, or they're
Yeah.
canceled and then they're brought back to life. And, anytime you follow, like, and I'm reading this great book
Yes.
on 2001 A Space Odyssey, and you're like,
Yes.
man, these films, they take a long time to really make it to the finish line.
Yes.
So this one, though, was pretty egregious. And if you also stretch it all the way back to, Tron Legacy, and think about it, 1982. Tron Legacy was 1982. Sorry, I don't trust myself with math. So 2010 minus 1982, 28 years to do the
Yes.
sequel. So 28 years to do anything with Tron. And then you had Tron Uprising, which came out 2 years later. That's the TV show that
Yes.
Cameron was attached to. And by the way, good show. And then you have to wait another, 2012 to another 13 years for this. So 13,
Yeah.
actually 15 years if you go to Legacy. So these are massive swings.
Yes.
And then for this one to come out so disjointed in terms of continuity of storytelling,
Yeah.
it is disruptive to the story.
Why? Okay, so here's my thing, is that if you were gonna make a Tron movie, why didn't you connect with the people who last did the Tron movie? Why didn't you connect with Bruce and have him locked down? Why didn't you have the actor who played Sam locked down, and Olivia Wilde locked down? Like, these are the things you do, at least from what I'm saying, and from a story point of view. Let's say you don't have the script written, you've got your characters, but we've got Jared Leto, but who is he supposed to play? So now you've got to create a character for this big star that has just attached themselves to your project, and
Well, and the whole point of a sequel is I show up to watch a continuation of a pre-existing story.
yes,
And so I'm not getting much of that in Tron Ares. Tron Ares is in some ways a reset. And that's what I think Cameron's thinking could help or might work for it, meaning as a reset, maybe it has legs with a sequel or a follow-up, or maybe even an animated show that comes in after this that builds off of this. As a reset, maybe somehow this does work. But I think as a sequel, it is very disruptive, and it was very hard for me to get settled in it. As far as sitting back and watching the action, I agree with you guys, or with Cameron and some of the people in the chat. It was likable action, like it was fun. It was a popcorn flick, but I don't need it to be a Tron movie. So I just felt like it was a little too disconnected for my tastes, and I do think that it matters. I know Cameron was laughing at me and waving me off, saying, "You're crazy that you have to explain how the tech works on some level." But I think that's, and if I heard him right, he was saying that's what the people who hired you would say. And I'm like, well, but I'm thinking now, probably, but that doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they're right. And I think Cameron would. I'm surprised he would take their side on that. I think he would definitely think that it's good to have some connective tissue there to bolster the story, to make me understand it or believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is there, but
well, I hope you go see it. I really hope you go see it, because I would love to have a follow-up conversation with you. What you think about Eve, and what you think about the other characters, all the new characters. The other issue I had was there's a Dillinger in this. This guy, I think I had his picture up. So he's kind of one of the bad guys.
Yes, he's the new bad guy.
Now, the original Dillinger, by the way, was played by and he recently just passed away. May he rest in peace. David Warner.
David Warner
played Dillinger in the original Tron.
Amazing performance.
He was the original bad guy. He was the one that wrote the master control program. And then he was the one that started to have to deal with the master control program as it became more and more powerful, kind of outgrowing its creator in a sense. And then, of course, he also played Sark in the master control. He played his program, which part of the magic of Tron, they look like you. There's Sark. He played the baddie inside the program. So they in name only, they tried to follow up by saying Dillinger's son in Tron Legacy is part of the company still, Encom. And lo and behold, he's played by Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, that was in Legacy.
So,
but he's this new Dillinger. He's his uncle.
Right, but why? Why are you telling me? Oh, then there's like 4 other Dillingers, and then there's the mom Dillinger. It's like,
and that's his sister. That's his sister.
Right. So we understand that the original Dillinger is no longer part of the corporation. It's 28 years later, and we have young, new tech bros. The tech bros of the 80s are gone. These are the tech bros of 2010, and we have Cillian Murphy. And you're saying, okay. You're asking me to invest in him on some modicum of as a viewer to say, okay, there's a new Dillinger, and they're like, and he's gone.
Yeah, I think that was that was something. Even when I was doing the review for Legacy, I was like, oh, you know what? This little tiny role for Dillinger's son could be really something else in part 3. And so it's kind of surprising that we get this Dillinger, because Cillian Murphy is so big right now. He's so he's an incredible actor, and maybe he was just like, I'm not interested in doing Tron anymore. I did the first one because I was a young actor, and now I don't think maybe he's just not interested.
Yeah.
But maybe even a recast, or something like that, but there should be a reason why we don't see him anymore, because I was expecting to see him in this movie.
Well, it would have been cool. I think if I'm trying to put this, and again, Cameron would probably laugh at me because of my complete innocence and ignorance of how the industry actually works. But I would imagine, assuming caveat, that all things being even and they're interested in making a good film, that they would want to keep Cillian Murphy. Be like, we put this poker in the fire, and it's Cillian Murphy, and he's going to play the next Dillinger, and we dangle them, and now we get to unfurl him, and we get to reveal him as the new. I think I would have worked pretty hard to try to make that happen, give him a good offer.
Myself as well. Yes, myself as well. Yeah, because he was a direct lineage in this part. We have and this is kind of odd. We get his sister, and she gives the company to her son. Like, why couldn't she just run the company? Why couldn't she just be the bad guy? I mean, like, what was wrong with her just being the one who is like, yes, I want that technology on. Like, why couldn't she have been the one to do all that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, so again, if you like, and I do care about heroines in fiction, especially. Me. I spent years of my life devoted to studying it. So here you add her in. Why? What is she doing there? She's putting him in check, which, by the way, makes him look weaker if he's this big CEO visionary who came up with the Ares program. To have a heroine, they kind of paired off all these male characters with a female character that's constantly bugging them. It really is how it comes across, except for the lead female character who's got this. Her male character is not overpowering her or scolding her or any of that. He's very beta eunuch like. He's this guy in the background. I mean, he was kind of likable, but certainly not challenging her or her equal or a good match. He was just kind of there as like I don't know, like one of those like guys that just follows her around as an assistant or something. But
a warm body in the room.
Yeah. So, but why? Like, he's not necessarily complimenting her, and he's not necessarily essential to the plot. So I think his character could have gone. Like we just showed, you just said, like, she could have been the CEO by herself.
I think that's more believable.
So either get rid of him and make her, because she's actually of an age that she looks like she could be a CEO and run a company, and she could probably have gravitas to command an authoritative position as a CEO. She probably would have been pretty cool as a standalone CEO.
I think so too. And also an ambitious woman who may have lost her way and is a bad guy,
Totally. But I think they then wanted a tech bro, so they put him in there. So it's like they didn't really resolve who's the smart one, who's calling the shots. She seemed to be scolding him for all of his decision making the whole time, which is kind of a boring role as a character. You're not even a foil at that point. You're just nagging him.
Yeah.
So either he should have gone or she should have gone. You're asking me to get invested in two new characters who are Dillingers. After getting rid of the Dillinger, you asked me to get invested in from Tron Legacy. So it's just a lot to ask with all these new characters.
And just to FYI, we're not saying that you can't like this movie with these faults, but this is just something that's sort of glaring. And look, I can see it right there. That's something that I was noticing. I was like, well, get rid of that guy. Let her be the one that's the
Let
sister.
Her call the shot, or either he's a tech bro, and by the way, this is like this dystopian version of a tech bro, which I think is less interesting. If this is supposed to be the near future, put this in San Fran. I don't know. I just felt like
that's a lot of people were complaining.
Wave, you could have made it more convincing.
People were really complaining about this. They said that this is shot in Vancouver, and all this time a lot of people thought it was shot in San Francisco. And so that was another thing a lot of people noticed about the film, which I thought was very
in
interesting.
Austin. Come to Austin. We had, even Austin would have been a location. Elon Musk is here, Tesla's here. They put SpaceX and Browns down south in Texas. So I mean, whatever. There's tech bro cities, and I think that you could have played with that a little bit. In fact, when I was rewatching Tron 1982. I was like, man, they have kind of the 1980s tech bro thing going there. The young guys who are the underlings writing all this software for the big corporate type.
Yeah.
So there was a mirror of reality there in that 1982 film. So this one, it just seemed more fantasy corporate dystopia rather than real world groundedness. So anyway, I would have tried to anchor this into. Again, I'm gonna disagree with Cameron on this. I would have definitely tried to sell the audience on this being the real world by giving you a real CEO, a real company feel and look. I would have, like you said, put it in San Francisco, put it in a place that's known for its tech hub, and given us a place that feels real to the audience. Because when the digital world comes into it, it looks foreign. Because if the real world you're giving me already looks like a digital dystopia, then Tron the Tron universe coming into the real world looks like it's coming into just an extension of itself already.
I'm gonna give you an example, and this is from a different movie, Ghostbusters. When the ghosts come to take over New York City, they go to landmarks where people recognize the places. And that makes it real for people, even if it's hokey. Even though if it's hokey, so that is the San Francisco bridge there. You can relate it to something.
Yeah.
And so,
And by the way, this is a classic storytelling, especially in the visual medium for
Mhm.
film. It's a classic thing to do.
Yes.
Was it North by Northwest that the whole battle took place on Mount Rushmore?
Oh, I don't know.
Is that right? And then, you got King Kong climbing the top of
Yes.
the Empire State Building.
A landmark.
Yeah, a landmark, something that marks it and locks in. Like you said, New York is in, or Ghostbusters is in New York. I remember even the Planet of the Apes, which was
Yes.
set in San Francisco. There's that big battle, pitched battle on the Golden Gate Bridge. So by anchoring it in the real world and giving us a real world feel, and I still would have used some daylight here and there, and found a way to make the Tron thing cool, or just not have Tron shots in the daylight, but I definitely would have sold the audience on the fact that this is the real world.
Yes.
This is your world, and guess
Real
what's going to happen to your world?
Yeah.
It's going to be invaded by these digital manifestations that can now take form in the real world, and it's Tron. And you
Yes.
could be on the highway, and if they fire up their light walls, they could slice you in half.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think that the premise was there. I think that there was some misfires. And it's possible that there's just too many people talking about this, or too many cooks in the kitchen, but it wasn't grounded enough in the real world. I wasn't quite sold on how the digital world was real. And so the interactions were a little off for me. And then I think there was too many characters. I think those pull it down. It wasn't Jared Leto, guys. So anyone who's listening, it wasn't Jared Leto was not the problem in this. The premise was not the problem. I think it was too many characters, not enough continuity with the previous films, and they didn't sell me on the standalone concepts that they were working with. The concepts were cool. Some people are complaining about the concepts. I liked them, but I don't think they did enough to sell me on it. I think I needed just a little bit more to believe it. So.
I am loving hearing what you're saying, because also too, as somebody who's going to see it, I already know, okay, those are some things I can put to the side now and like focus in on the positive things. Like, okay, yeah, there's that thing that Doug was saying, and
Yeah,
then I can go, because it kind of helps. I think that's one of the reasons why I like listening to critics when they talk about these movies, and just like understand, like, okay, that movie's gonna have, it's not gonna be a perfect, pristine movie. Let's see what we can get out of it that's fun for us, like for myself, like, so that's the way I'm gonna be looking at it when I see it.
Well, and I've heard this argument before that, hey, asking for the movie to be good is ridiculous or silly, or
No,
you can't
it's
expect
not.
it. I totally disagree with that, because I think that you can ask it to be good, and I do think that what's really missing is good writing. It is the writers. I think that a lot of these studios have moved away from hiring quality writers, or there's too many writers competing with competing visions. You need a singular vision, and you need a good director, and you need good writers to pull this off. Now, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking that one of the things is that I feel the energy of it, like really not them just not being able to say no to, like, once they got Jared Leto on board, having to create this Ares concept, and not real, and then not be fully baked. Do you know what I mean? There's one thing if you have, oh, I know of this character that's going to be cool, and this is how we integrate him into the story. Or here's this character, and now how do we build a story around that character?
Right.
See the difference? Like there's a difference, and that's what I'm feeling here with this, which is it's sort of a sidetrack to our main story, right?
Right. Well, so back in 1982, how do you get sucked into a computer? That's also, like Cameron was saying, well, they didn't explain that, and he's right. But in 1982, we had kind of an MS-DOS level of public knowledge of computers. And so the big stretch was, hey, we're just going to get sucked in. But this is 2025. We have AI on our phones, high-powered AI on our phones. We have we have our refrigerators have AI, and they're smart houses, and all the average car parked in our driveway is more sophisticated than the Apollo 11 program that landed on the moon. So we're much more sophisticated. And, you know, if the idea is we're going to sell the audience on what if digital programs and entities could come into the real world, that I want to believe it, because if I believe it, it's going to be so scary to me. It's going to be so, oh my God, this is like a nudge away from reality. That holds its own weight. If you could sell the audience on it and not ask the audience to suspend its belief on it completely, then I think you got like 2001, A Space Odyssey. We believed in that when it was
definitely
believable.
Oh yeah.
You know, so if we could believe it just a little bit more, I think it could have made this more interesting, because it would have been like, oh my God, AI can bounce from any program in the real world. Like, but they didn't really use that.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I just
so
wanted
this
to
is
believe
the
it.
opportunity, really an opportunity for a fourth movie to explain what we didn't get. And, you know, like, okay, exactly how does this 3D printing work?
Yeah, and it's true. So we're aware of 3D printing. That's not a foreign concept, you know, and they had that in. But, you know, so I was thinking, like, what would I have done? How would I have solved it if I'm gonna? I think the only way that this could have been done is if the 3D printer creates some sort of carbon, silicone, some sort of mesh that can take a shape like a human shape,
Carbon-based.
some sort of carbon fiber that's strong and elastic and believable in its movement, and nano particle driven, because there's nano machines. You can build machines out of nanites. So they could have built something carbon mesh, just a carbon mesh shape, and then you can download a program into this shape, and it can look like however you want. It could be strong or whatever. And then I'd be like, oh my God, that could be true. You could create a carbon nano computer and then download a program in it that could interact with the real world. And if it has artificial intelligence, it might be able to plug into the stoplight there, your phone, and get information from you there. It could shut off.
See, that's what I was saying. Like, this was an opportunity that I didn't see in the trailer, which was to actually like be able to do more than just be a soldier, but to actually take over, like sort of like the Terminator when he, you know, he realized he came online and it became Skynet, because he was able to realize he could do more. He was aware. And so this is where we're kind of like the potential of this is not fully realized.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. If you could have given me something more plausible, and by the way, I get the argument that it doesn't need to be plausible. This is a fun science fiction film. There is a case for that. I mean, he's not completely wrong to say that. But if you go with that, then you just get an action film with incredible aesthetics. And by the way, it could be fun. You know, some people watch it and get a lot of fun out of it. But I'm saying if you wanted to give it the extra level, make it a little bit more functional, give it that extra gravity. And I think if we're watching something we believe could be real, I think we would be on the edge of our seats just a little bit more. Hell, even when I saw Mission Impossible, they showed how AI could deceive a sea captain by projecting images of an enemy attacking a sub. So they're responding to the digital information coming in, but there's nothing there. The AI made it up. I was like, oh, that's kind of scary, because an AI could do that. You could trick humans into thinking something's there when it's not. So that's what I'm saying. Give it a little bit of thought. Give it some plausibility. And Darth Plato asked, does Tron Ares actually create matter? Tron Ares does not. He is a program himself, but the NCOM system, or it's Dillinger Enterprises, right? They do. So these lasers come in, and like a 3D printer, I think you've seen it in the trailer, they start to create this sort of thing, and it creates kind of this like metallic nest of
out of thin air, though, right? It would be interesting if there was something there that they made, because there's nothing there, and it just creates this stuff.
Yeah. So the light projects these something. Light is carrying some
like
sort of material, and putting it into place.
Yes.
And it creates this sort of like cocoon as it, like what you see there at the bottom of that pile is the outer cocoon. And when it's done, whatever's inside kind of shakes out of the cocoon. I kind of like that. I thought that looked cool.
And then that's almost like how real 3D printing is done, because sometimes you've got to take it out of its frame to release the figure.
But then it creates a tree later, and I think she's eating the orange. So it's like, well, hold on, that's biological material. It's not just it's biological. And then they made it seem like Tron Ares was a biological entity, like living flesh and blood. But then when he dies, he dereses, pixelates. So it's like, well, if he's just pixels, you have to understand this is the real world. There's nothing projecting that pixel onto the sidewalk there. So I don't understand how you're pixelated in the real world. So when you do that, and I think there's another scene, if I remember right, where the light cycle crashes and it dematerializes. It's like, well, hold on a second. Where does that information go? Inside a computer mainframe, you can make a case that information's, it's part of the program. It's running the program. But we're in the real world, programs are run by biological and physical material that have very specific properties and that we cannot replicate. So if you want these things, these programs to become physical and interact with us, you've got to have something. I don't think you can have nothing there.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is where, they can really go into more detail onto what these magical pixels can do, and why they do it in the way they do. Because it's almost like somebody said, "Oh, we like the movie Pixels. We don't like the story, but we like how things break apart and how it looks all funky when it falls apart." And that's what they did. Also, in the last movie, remember Cora got hurt and her arm got pixelated.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, why is her arm pixelated? So maybe they were like, oh, that's cool. Let's bring it into this, this new film. It could be just to keep and not for nothing. That is continuity. But it is also, for people who are interested in actually finding out what the answer is. It would be nice to have that kind of explanation. It would be nice. Yeah, I would like to know that.
I think there's something to underpin all the action you're watching. Something to underpin it all. Because like I said, in 1982, being projected into the computer system with our MS-DOS level understanding of the digital world, we don't need an advanced explanation. We bought into it. And at the time, using computer-generated graphics, which, by the way, Tron is one of the first films to seriously incorporate CGI way back in 1982. They messed with it in The Black Hole in 1979 with the opening. Remember, you have that John Barry, that almost hopeless and relentless score as it's going. And then you get to the black, it's got a grid. And, you follow the black hole and they use CGI there. And then, of course, Westworld, I think early 70s, they tried it there as well. But Tron really incorporated it. So at the time, our rudimentary 8-bit understanding of computers we were basically computer illiterate. So to tell that story in a computer illiterate world, totally fine. We are not just computer literate. We are way advanced. So I do think in order to create the same effect to the audience, you need to convince us. You have to do better at the computer side of this.
Now, let me try to just explain what I think happened here, because I can see it. I can see what happened. In the original movie, Flynn, when he does get zapped by that beam, it does do sort of like a graphic thing all over, and it takes a little while for him to be decomposed into and actually transferred into or sucked into the thing. And I think that's what they're trying to replicate here with the lasers on this, the way they kind of create this 3D printing process.
And they are. And
it's actually kind of a cool thing. But I'm with you in the fact that I think it could have been explained a little bit there
So
on.
I care a lot about functionality, and I have noticed that some of the greatest films that have ever existed, some of my favorite stories, have incredible functionality underneath the hood. So
Yes.
it means the more you dig into the story, the more you see
Yes.
how it's constructed, and the more you can see the architecture behind the scenes. You could see how it all fits together, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful and it works, and that you could see that the writer and the storyteller thought of it all. So
Yes.
you can do this,
Yeah.
and it will work at this level. But I think if you want to hit a higher level, you do the homework and you come up with an explanation for how this works. You sell us on it, and I think
Yeah.
that will elevate the film. That's all I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
it's true that it works. And like I said, my son loved it. And for those watching, if you watch Tron Ares, there is a lot of cool action. There's no way around it. The action is very cool. The aesthetics are awesome. I love the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack. It is awesome, and it's the kind of movie that if it has legs, it'll have legs because it's the kind of movie that a creative person might put on in the background while you're working on your painting.
Ooh, can't wait. Yeah.
And then every now and then you stop and you watch Tron Ares action.
Yes.
And in that sense, you might actually it might grow on you, the action and the aesthetics and the film itself. So it may have a second life in the streaming world as background imagery and background movie that starts to grow on people. And if that happens,
Yes.
the aesthetics of this might pull it all the way across into that cult classic territory that you're talking about. It might capture that special audience that really starts to dig this movie.
Yeah, I think it will. I think also when it comes to these kinds of movies, it
Hey,
may be
Emily.
oh, hi everybody in the chat. Bonzo, Darth Vader, everybody.
Darth Plato,
Good
Sable
to
Phoenix.
see everybody, Sable Phoenix. With movies like there are some movies out there that don't get a lot of eyes on it. But a director or filmmaker might say, "Ooh, I really like that scene right there." And
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino is very good at doing that and sees it, and then will use that scene to kind of pay homage to it in one of their movies. So it is sort of one of those things where I don't discount a movie like this because I can see that especially from the word of mouth and what people are saying about the movie, that visually there are going to be some things here in this movie that people will be looking at too in their own movies. We're talking about future filmmakers will see a scene in here that they like and they're like, I gotta put that in my movie, you know.
Yeah.
Um
I
and
have
the
this sneaking suspicion that a lot of these movies, like you get these moments where you're like, "Ooh, that's cool." Like you see it in the trailer. You're like I
Yes.
remember when I was watching the trailer, they showed the recognizer passing through. You were inside his office in a skyscraper, and out the window, a recognizer is. I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
It's almost like they look at, and I feel like The Mandalorian did this in the show, the early shows, the good shows, even. They drew concept art. And then they just strung a story together to make the concept art work. And I think I just have the sneaking suspicion that's what they're doing with some of these. That they're like, what if you had like draw some concept art of a light cycle in the real world? So they drew it. They look at it like, oh man, yeah, that's awesome. What if it slices a police car in half? Oh God, that's great. But then it's like, okay, now let's build a story around those concept art scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie felt like that at times where like if I'm flipping through a concept art book and I see images like this, pretty freaking cool. I mean, it's cool.
Yes.
But is it a story? And
Yeah.
it's very, very thin there. It's very thin. And I think the story still matters more than the aesthetics. I think you do need a stronger story.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because here's something else that I was thinking about as far as like traveling from the two worlds. There was one part of the grid where you could go and freely travel between the two worlds.
The portal, right?
Yeah, the portal. So what? What happened to the portal?
Yeah, they really.
What
I
happened to the portal?
Now I fell asleep for about 10 minutes in the movie. I'll be honest. So my son had to wake me up. So maybe there was a portal and I missed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed
Oh
about
yeah,
10.
yes. It was in the trailer. There was a portal into the sky.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, well, anyway, I think that you still, as a writer, have to do some homework on what has to be in here. What is the basic structure? The idea of I fight for the users. Who are the
Yeah.
users? Well, the users are us. That means he fights for us, right? That basic premise. I think you need to have that in there.
Mhm.
Basically, the only thing they carried over was the aesthetics of Tron.
Mhm.
And a basic interplay between the real world and the digital world, in which it got flipped, and the digital world is coming into the real world. I think that's basically what Tron Ares is. But anyway, Bonzo asked Douglas A. Burton, how can you say you like the movie in which you fell asleep? I gave it a 6 out of 10, so I don't know if that's liking it.
Yeah, he has some.
Yeah, I think it's much more of a mixed bag, is what I said. That there was there's clearly some there's clearly bad aspects of this film.
Mhm.
The people who like it are going to like it because it's fun and got a lot of action, and it's got the Tron aesthetic. That's basically what's going to drive the people who like it. But if you want anything more, it's just not here. And I think that there's reasons why audiences might reject this, real valid critical reasons that undermine the success of this film. And at the end of the day, audiences are not coming out to see it, and it's not doing well at the box office. So anyway, I don't know if that answered your question, Bond. There's things about it I liked, but there's a lot that I also did not like about it. So anyway, Retro, is there anything else you wanted to cover before we take a bow on Tron Ares?
No, I'm still excited to go to see it in any I'm not sure if I can make it to the theater, but I um definitely want to see it. I wish I could see it in the theater.
Well, Tron Ares has been it's digital. It's like a digital download. If you can get yourself inside the grid, you can watch it for free. You got to take that chance.
Oh boy. Okay, yes. I'm sign me up.
One day you got in.
And yeah, like I had a lot of problems with Legacy, a lot. But I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
I like Legacy a lot more than Tron Ares.
Yeah, I mean, and I did love the father-son storyline that was going on there, which was a surprisingly touching part of the story. Is like, oh, it was like so good, um, and how it was neatly kind of wrapped up by the end. That both sons, both Clue and Sam, got the affirmation from their father that they needed. It was really great. I was totally teary-eyed at the end. And so I really wanted to see the continuation of that story. And I
Yeah.
think everybody wanted to see the continuation of that story. And we're again, I can't wait to see all of the cool stuff, all this cool sci-fi stuff. I'm all about that.
Oh
But
yeah.
honestly, I'm already disappointed because I know that the stuff that I really wanted to see is not in the movie. So
Well,
I'm gonna go in there with like a nice, like, you can only surprise me at this point.
Well, what's frustrating to me personally as a Gen Xer is this should have been a golden age the last 10 years. All this money became available. Streaming became available. There was so many opportunities to go back and revisit these worlds that existed for 2 hours from our
Yes.
childhood. And to go back to that and bring the actors back and to bring the directors back, to bring John Williams back, to bring all this back and to have all of this money put into it, billions of dollars put into it. to see more Tron, more Star Wars, more Star Trek, more of everything. And I feel like they just blew it
all
across
of the
board.
yeah, Indiana Jones, all of them, they really,
Doctor Who.
really messed them all up. And they even tried to destroy their own franchise pieces. Like it's really very surprising. But I hope with optimism that Disney really figures it out, because you know it really is sad that they have so many IP and they don't know exactly what to do with it. It
Well, and
seems.
I think for whatever reason they're thinking away. I think it's concentric. And in the middle of that center, it starts with the writer. You have to have a writer who can come up with a creative angle on the
Stories.
premise and
Yeah.
an idea on the characters. And you start there and you build out. And then the
Yeah.
concept art starts to follow because remember, creativity is archetypal.
Yes.
It's archetypal thinking. You're taking these big chunks out, you're pulling it up from your psyche, and you're like, okay, I'm going to fuse these things together, and we're going to be inside of a computer grid, and Tron's going to be in there, and Kevin Flynn is somewhere. Sam, you get these building blocks, and as a writer, you have to sculpt something out of that. It's a skill set.
Yeah.
And good writers are good at that, and I think you start there, and then you build, and you have all these other creatives building outside of that, and then you get something that no one person could have done. And for decades, we were treated to these incredible stories that no one person could have done. You needed the visionary, you needed the director, you needed the writer, you needed the Ralph McQuarries and the Drew Struzans, and who just passed away. May he rest in peace.
Yes.
But all of these creatives, John Williams, who's like, I know how to write Jaws theme, and then he does it. You need all of this, but it all builds on. It creates its own momentum. And
Yes.
I feel like we're in this doldrum where the momentum is not there, and you're getting non-creative people coming in and taking something superficially, fusing it together and putting it out there and be like, did that look like Tron? We're like, yeah, but it's not. It's missing something.
Here and another thing that I hear a lot, and somebody claimed that I heard somebody say that the issue here is that they made Tron for the male audience because that's who went to the theater to go see it, and that the female audience is a very important part of the equation. And I agree that that females are, but this movie is not specifically for guys.
See,
I don't think that this is because they really went out of their way.
They went out of their way to put women into the story for sure.
Yes, and it doesn't, and not that I don't like seeing, the ladies in the film, because I think if from what I'm hearing, that Athena was a character that was actually well placed, and she did a great job.
She actually did okay. I'm not a big fan of the actress, but she was okay. She wasn't the problem. Jared Leto wasn't the problem. The actors and actresses that I thought I'm adverse to did not bug me in the film, shockingly. They were very serviceable. They weren't great, but they weren't bad.
But what also I'm saying is that many of those, at least two of those characters, seem to be replacements for other characters.
Right. That's the issue, is that do these bring something new, or are they just the new lead roles?
Yes, and so that is a serious problem when you're saying, oh, Sam was the guy, and then you're saying, okay, he was with Sam and Cora, but now we've got Eve.
Well, and
this?
You're talking about something, and I think they should rethink how they think of demographics in a film. You're talking about probably what the studios talk about. How do we attract the female audience? I don't think that's the right question. I think the question is the female audience is over a huge spectrum. The amount of personalities women have and what they're attracted to in a film or a story is so widespread. There's a lot of crossover with what guys like. I think, and vice versa. So
yes.
I think the question is, are we trying to attract the female romance film audience? Because don't do that with Tron. Yes. Are we trying to attract the Sex and the City audience? Are we trying to attract the which female audience are you trying to attract?
Exactly.
The CEOs, the business women who aren't that interested in films necessarily, or the business women that are, women are not a monolithic demographic. So I think you need to figure out which women you're trying to bring into the franchise who belong there, who are already naturally attracted to Tron on some spectrum,
Level,
some
yeah.
level, and then
Yes.
bring maybe them in. But you can't appeal to women on the whole, because now you're thinking like every genre has got to somehow be, every woman who likes every genre has to now be incorporated into Tron Ares or Star Wars, and that's just not true. And you're going to actually create something that makes no sense.
Exactly, and that's the problem. I think that movies should just be niche oriented to the fan base. And the reason why I say that, look at Barbie. That was a movie made specifically for women. And they came out and they made that movie a $1 billion movie.
$1 billion franchise. And guess what?
Yes.
Some men watched it and some men liked it. I'm one of them. I did not mind Barbie. I thought Barbie was a good movie. Now I got a lot of flack from some people, but Barbie was a good movie, and it's not something that I'm rewatching. You know, it's not the kind of movie that's my target film. But not every movie has to be for me to pay the money to go watch it, and for me to walk out and say, "Hey, yeah, that was a good film. I see a lot of creativity in it. I like the aesthetics. I like this. I like that." So what?
Yeah.
But the movie doesn't have to be centered around me.
Yes.
To get my money. You know, just like Tron doesn't have to be centered around a certain type of female personality.
Everybody.
Right.
Like K-pop Demon Hunters.
Totally female driven. And it was good. I loved it.
It's specific. And you know what? Fans love it so much. They couldn't shut up about it. So you heard about it. I heard about it. Everybody heard about it. Yes. And that is because they made a great product.
Well, and not only was it a great product,
they told a great story.
But it was authentic. I felt like, I don't think anyone at that writer's table said, how do we get the Star Wars audience in on this?
Yes.
How can we make K-pop Demon Hunters appeal to the Star Wars crowd? Because if they did that, the Star Wars crowd would be like, that's not really Star Wars. Even though there's a little bit, I don't think I'm into this at all. And then the K-pop crowd would have been like, why are you adding that into this story? So, and that's what happens to a lot of these films. Now, I will say Tron was mostly true to Tron, but I think they tried to appeal to women by adding female characters. The problem was those female characters did not contribute much to the film. That existing characters couldn't already carry that water.
Yes. So. And I really felt like it would have been a very powerful statement for Gillian Anderson. Is Anderson? Do I have her name right?
Yep. She's
for her to play the mean old bad person.
She could have been great if they gave her the floor.
Just go for it. She's the new baddie Dillinger. And what did they do to her character? If anything, they had to kill her off because there really wasn't anything for her to do.
Well, they made her kind of a nagging mother.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Very, very, you know, that's the worst thing you could do to a character, I think. And honestly, just showing up and being another, we you know, we've got 3 girls on the team, you know, on this movie is not a fancy, you're not showing off.
No, not at all. And you know,
tell us a good story.
The first thing I'm going to do, if a company forced me, like if they're like, you have to write a female character, I am going to try so hard to give a character that I think people are going to like. I would work so hard at that because I know that if I just put a shell female character out there, that she's just a vessel to carry the female role, and that's not really a character that's a
to
role.
Gain criticism, and that is something that I feel like you know, we've seen it over and over again. Companies trying to present, oh yeah, we are, you know, really out to uplift women, and yet these actresses are actually human shields for their bad content.
Well, and you know what the dumb thing is? You know how you make a great female character? You make her vulnerable the same way you make a great male character, because the second you show that these characters can be bested, overpowered, Like Han Solo makes Luke look like a little nothing. He outmans Luke all through A New Hope. I mean, he's the second he senses Luke's into Leia, he's like, you know what? Maybe I'm into Leia. What do you think about that? And Luke's like, I don't like that at all. And he's like, I mean, he's just doing it to screw with him.
Yeah.
Because of that, everyone's like, oh, I kind of feel bad for Luke. So you show them vulnerable. You know why that matters? You know why vulnerability matters? Because that's how we feel in real life, in secret, in a lot of situations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you show that vulnerability, we're like, oh, okay, that's how I feel. I get that. Like that's relatable. And then you show that this vulnerable character just once, puts it all together and gets it right and blows up the Death Star. We're like, he did it.
Yeah.
He did it. And he was the guy that was getting pushed around, but he's the one that did it.
Yeah.
Same thing with female characters. The rules are no different. You show her vulnerable because you know what? A lot of young girls or grown women they're going to relate to that vulnerability, that moment where the guy got the best of them and said something in front of the corporate boardroom and made her look bad. She's like, oh man, this guy, he reminds me of this guy back, but good. Now they're paying attention because they can relate that experience to something. And then you show in a later scene, then she gets the best of them. And that's going to be very satisfying. So
it's going to be
characters come from vulnerability.
Yeah. And Darth Plato says, don't write a female character, write a character that happens to be female. Ripley is a perfect example of that. They were supposed to cast a male for that, and she didn't play.
Those roles were written to be gender neutral.
Yeah. So, and it's great because we loved all the characters. We adore that original Alien film for the characters and the character study of that we're getting from this science fiction space movie. Like what we're supposed to care about these guys? Yeah, we did.
How are we introduced to Ripley in Aliens? Her mega film. She has a nightmare and she's scared and she wakes up in a fright and she's sweating and then she wakes up again and she's sweating and the corporate guy gets the best of her and she's like, did IQs just drop? So she's losing. And then when she gets on the Sulaco, they're making fun of her. I just want to know one thing, man. They cut her off and she's like, that earns credibility because we feel for her. And then when this chick is blasting through walls with an APC to go rescue a cut off Marine platoon, we're like, oh wow, I don't even know if I would have done that.
Yeah. She really shows her stuff. And that's that's pretty much what you do with a character, is that you got to show them grow and change and give us something to chew on, when you think about doing like when you're doing like a cosplay or you want to write more, if you want to do a fanfic about your character, like is there going to be any meat on those bones,
Right. Well, and you'll see. Tell me what you think about Eve. She, like Athena, who's played, what's her name? Jodie Turner-Smith. Again, I'm not a fan of hers, but she was pretty good in this. Was she necessary? No. She just doubled Tron, but is now, it's like, or not Tron, Ares. Here's the Ares, and then there's the female version, which is Athena, which is her character. She's good in it, but do we need her in this?
Well, I think in her case, in defense, and I haven't seen the film, so I take this with a grain of salt. But when I lay out all the characters, I'm seeing her as a henchman, right? Like
she's kind of a parallel program to Ares. She's another. It's basically a female version of Ares.
Yeah, but she's the henchman for the bad guy to do like his muscle, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think you need kind of a character like that.
Yeah,
but you don't need like a nagging mom in your ear, and you definitely don't. Like, I'm not sure what Eve. I'll have to see the movie to say more about Eve.
In my opinion, she replaced Sam Flynn.
Yes.
I mean, literally, the role of CEO of Encom. He even says it in Legacy. Who's the majority when he's about to jump and parachute, and the security guard's there? He's like, "Who's the security?" He's like, "Who's the majority shareholder?" He's like, "I don't know, some kid." He's like, "You're Sam Flynn." So,
what a great
CEO of Encom in this movie. Eve is the CEO of Encom. So she literally just replaces the exact
Yeah.
same role, but she comes from nothing in the story, and she really has no backstory. I think they try to make us care because she has a sister who died. She puts up a picture, and there's like a sister. She's like, I miss you so much. It's like, but we don't know your sister. We haven't connected to this thing.
Why did they not show the sister dying?
No. It's
Oh.
you'll see it's super, super thin, and she just
That
replaced
sucks.
Sam Flynn. So it's hard for me to get into it because I'm like, I already invested in
Oh.
the CEO. His name is Sam
Okay.
Flynn.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, you're just the new CEO. It cheapens it because it's a role that exists for no other reason that I could think of. It doesn't seem even necessary to the story. And the way they handle Sam Flynn, no joke, during the opening credits, they have all these like news stories kind of floating by, in other news, Encom stock is rising. And then another one passed like Dillinger Enterprises and then it comes in and it's like, and it shows a picture of Sam. It's like, and Sam Flynn, former CEO, has stepped away for personal reasons. That's it. That's it. And that's telling, that's not showing. And it's done through exposition, and it's done through like the cheapest exposition, which is just, letting you know. So it gets you past it in one line. And I'm like, man, I invested in that character. I don't think that's enough for me to get over that quick.
And I don't know about about you, but like for me, it took a little bit for me to really fall in love with the character of Sam. Like I said, I had some resistance to him because I was like, who's this? And he gained my respect and throughout the movie, like within the first 10 minutes. And at first I was like, okay, why is he doing? You mentioned him dropping from the building and all his stunts, and I was like, why are they showing me this stuff? He seems like an arrogant kid. And then later on, it just was like it started to really flesh itself out. His character, the reasons why he was doing all the things that he was doing, and it made sense.
Well,
so
and I think
for them to get rid of his character like that really hits you in a place, so it's sort of like, well, wait a minute, we were just starting to like this guy, and now he's gone.
Right. So anyway, yeah, if they do a follow-up movie and they could tie Legacy back in and bring Sam Flynn back in, maybe and do something more with these characters, maybe they can make Ares float a little bit, but I don't think so. I just don't. And again, people are going to argue. I think there's going to be different opinions on whether this has legs. I think it might have some legs on streaming. Some shows do
streaming,
but,
I think.
Yeah, but I don't think this helped the franchise.
Yeah, I
don't think it killed it either. By the way, I don't think this is a franchise killer.
Yeah, I don't think it killed it, and I think as far as box office, it's going to be really tough to even break even. So
it's going to lose money. I'll tell you that.
At this point, yeah. So
and no one's going to buy like an Eve figure.
I might.
Well, maybe. Well, very few. I don't think it's going to be a big seller.
Yeah.
I know. Ares.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, Tron himself, the bikes, if they sell those. Athena, definitely. But I think the aesthetics of it, all that stuff, all the cool stuff, that's all gonna be the stuff that people cling to more than anything, and the soundtrack.
Agreed.
And there's even some people who didn't like either one of those two things. So there's a large audience out there that have particular tastes about all of this stuff, and we just have to let this one ride out.
Well, folks, I'm really happy that everyone joined us, me and Retro Nerd Girl, and earlier Kamran Pasha, who has directly contributed to the intellectual property of Tron. I'm glad you guys joined us to talk about it, because Tron is special. There's something about Tron that is very compelling to all of us. I think there's something about a digital version of ourselves inside the computer and these cool light suits and everything, and the speed of the light cycles. All of that is awesome. So it was nice to revisit that and talk about it and see where Tron Ares fit into it. But ultimately, go see the movie yourself and let me know in the comments anytime, because this will be up for a while. Let me know if you saw it and you ended up liking it, or if you saw it and you're like, dude, this buns, this is bad. Let me know. So, and if you want to follow Retro Nerd Girl, go to Retro Nerd Girl's channel. I will put it in the description below. Actually, can I get that real quick? Retro. Let me see if I can get that real quick.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Put it in the comments. Retro Nerd Girl. She has a lot of great reviews, and her love of movies is undeniable. So if you love movies and you click on one of her videos, you'll catch that vibe, that bug that we all have. And so part of her goal is to protect that and to preserve that vibe. So there is her channel. Click on her and subscribe. If you like what you saw and heard here, click subscribe below and click like and leave a comment if you have something to say. So, but that's it. Good night, everybody.